Markets trying to get back to positive territory as we get going here on a Friday morning with quite the reversal coming in late in the day yesterday. We end the session basically where we started when all was said and done after a wild ride. A few data points just coming through, including Canadian retail sales on a month-over-month basis, 0.4% to the upside there. Slightly better than expected. Retail sales, if you take out autos in this country, much better than expected, 0.9% to the upside. Still waiting on a couple more to come later on this morning. S&P Global Composite PMI and the manufacturing version of that. We'll also get the Global Services PMI flash number coming through there at 9:45. So 3 at 9:45 then. Michigan consumer sentiment coming up at 10 a.m. Remember, there is an inflation portion to that number, so can move the overall market if it does come in one way or the other outside of what is expected. Speaking of retailers this morning, GPS is so good it doesn't even want to populate on my chart, apparently. I broke trade ideas, apparently. No, it's GPS. It actually changed, but I mean, it's pulling up on trade ideas still as the right figure. Anyways, yeah. Trust me when I say it's. They reported. A few other things to touch on this morning as well. BTC still in the process of trying to test 100,000. I was trying to get to IBIT. There we go. Back to the downside right now on these data points coming through at 8:30 this morning. But crypto back in focus. We have EVs back in focus. Tesla positive. Everything China is definitely not this morning. Pretty ugly week. Chinese ADR related to earnings primarily.
I always feel like we get that big surge because.
You good? Okay.
We get that
Can we
big
hear him?
surge. Okay, Andre?
Okay. Can you hear him or no?
Test.
Okay.
So we get that big surge when we got the new stimulus coming from the government. I think we were talking about $3 trillion or $3 trillion. I'm not exactly sure, but then it always fades, right? Though.
Yeah.
We get that initial pump, but always never enough, or something always holding it back.
I think we're still having some audio issues here with Sharif. We'll get that figured out. Bear with us on a Friday morning. Sean with the day off this morning. Obi's in, guys. Good morning.
Coin broke the mics. That's all that happened, though, as it continues to ride higher. We come back to the desk? There we go. Good morning, everybody. No, Bitcoin got to, what do we get, 99.5 something there, Obi. So we're being teased with 100,000 without actually breaking 100,000 on Bitcoin. But if we're being real about things, I mean, there it is. I mean, look, when it breaks 100,000, I'll have it up, and it gets there. We'll talk a little bit more about it. But it's been cresting. The real story, or the bigger story in crypto yesterday, was obviously MicroStrategy. Yep. And we were having the discussion, Obi and I were having the discussion about, okay, well, why? Look, a lot of traders were focused on NVIDIA yesterday when MicroStrategy was at the big flush spot. NVIDIA was at a decision point in VWAP. So in that moment when 500 broke, a lot of chances you were looking at something else, which I know I was that moment. But it is what it is. It's going to be SSR today. It was bouncing. It was at $420, and we're already at 400. Like the bid is not there on it. So it is SSR, meaning, I'll at least look for some reversion plays today because I like a continuation. But that 380 where it held, if it loses that, you might have like 350, 355. Expecting the action to be heavy. Disappointment, however, I'm at least a little bit disappointed because SMCI is already broken. So SMCI is already broken out. Gap has already broken out. We'll get to that chart in a second. So you do have some runners going. SMCI, of course, it'll be on the watch list. They get the auditor, they get their reprieve and extension from potentially getting delisted there. So SMCI is going to be in play. Gap's up 21%. A lot to look at. I mean, you were talking about some earnings names, Obi, that I wasn't even giving a second look at that are up pretty nicely.
Yeah, no, I got a few on watch here. But yeah, no, definitely a big missed opportunity of mine from yesterday was that MSTR. Now, I'm sure if you guys are following any sort of, trading group or traders, everyone was talking about MSTR yesterday and overnight as well. Some solid opening range breaks as well, some rejection of opening prices, nice 500 flush as well. That's kind of what we were talking about, Neil and I, this morning. I'm like, all right, well, if you didn't have it in the morning there and you're taking it for the momentum, the 500 breakdown was nice. You probably only got, you got away with risking 2 to 3 points through the 500 for the flush down. And yeah, you can see that it was an all-day fader, pretty much closing near day lows there. Again, MSTR gapping up when Bitcoin really hadn't done anything to warrant such a move on MSTR. But yeah, no, definitely a lot of earnings names on watch today. We talk about Gap. Gap is gapping up. You can see that I already have my anchored kind of in there. Getting ready for the open there. 24.69 is where Gap is sitting. I'm watching NTAP as well. NTAP also pushing some fresh highs that it hasn't seen hasn't seen in a long while there. 117 50s is the reaction low. We're trading 136s, so nice strong push on, again, another double beat here on NTAP. I'm looking at Rost as well, Rost Stores, another gapper here. Nice strong action, still trading near its reaction highs. And this ESTC, which was just recently brought to my attention as well. ESTC, now again, I don't know. Oh, is it ESTC?
I think it is.
ESTC, okay. Okay, so ESTC, yeah, so another one that's pretty strong, already broke through that 100 in the pre-market. I don't have my anchored on here, so let's drop that in right there. Boom, so that's pretty nice. 115.15s, we're coming right into that anchored. So let's see if we can find any sort of participants that we can risk off of that level as well. And another one, CPRT, Copart, not really doing too much volume in the pre-market, but again, you go to a higher time frame here. This is a 3-hour. We're pretty much near what you may call all-time highs here on Copart. So going to be some interesting names coming off the open. A lot of earnings names for a Friday, as I was saying earlier. Daniil, I'm like, oh boy. A lot of day one earnings. No, day two earnings as well. We got Snowflake, NVIDIA, of course. Day two earnings.
Look, day two is huge for earnings plays. Like everyone, look, obviously NVIDIA is a big play, and don't forget Snowflake. That was an absolute banger. Randy in the house with the refill.
I got a fresh coffee right here.
So here's the problem, Randy.
Thank you, Randy.
Is remember when you did the red cup, green cup thing, and this was a couple of days. Was it Wednesday or Tuesday? You know what? Either way, we came with the red, and in the pre-market we were heading downside. Market was absolutely tanking, and then that was the big reversal day when Randy came with the green coffee mugs for the after the open reload, and then we started bouncing. So we're not actually tanking right now. Like the market's, I don't know, pretty flat-ish and bouncing overnight, so nothing's really going on here. But if the Randy indicator is correct, then we should be buying the dips. And then when I finish this coffee and get another one, and then we get a green
cup, that's when the turn is it?
That's when the turn.
When the bottom has been made. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, no,
we're just having fun.
You're right, Neil. I feel like there's some confluence that we got the cups. We have some indicator. We got the ADR indicator as well, green and red. So I think there might be some interesting players. It's either the market is watching or some interesting players watch our show, and they're just like, nothing makes sense. We're gonna go off of these. Have you ever heard of the? That reminds me of the what is it? The Barron's, is it Barron's magazine indicator?
Oh,
you've heard of this?
Yeah, I think
you've heard of this. Yeah. No, it's legit.
It's like the Madden curse and those types of things. I think what ends up happening is
there's potential logical reasoning behind it. I don't know about the cups and the
cups, no. But there's just a lot of trading days in the year, and every now and then something fun like that happens, and you can have fun with it, but try not to get too caught up with it. Now the Barron's thing, or things that everyone in the market really is looking at and paying attention to, those can be self-fulfilling prophecies. But what color Adair is wearing or what color coffee mug I happen to have doesn't make too much of a difference.
Oh boy.
For sure, Sebastian Snowflake is gorgeous, and I love it. Let's get back to the desk.
Reddit here, just an absolutely amazing looking chart still. We are gapping down to the tune of about 4% this morning, it looks like. 158 down to about 146 here so far pre-market. Look at this daily chart, though. It's just crazy. Go back, this is August. This low is August, 200% from August to yesterday's closing high. I mean, we basically go out on the highs. This morning we come in to learn that the majority stakeholder going to use part of or the majority of their shares to raise more funding and raise more capital via a credit facility. Back below 150 here this morning, but what a day it was yesterday for Reddit.
Great looking chart. Bit of a tougher day, obviously, with a bigger shareholder selling. So here's the deal, guys. Advanced Magazine Publishers, they're part of the Newhouse family. They need to raise money. So what are they going to do? They're going to sell about 7.8 million of their shares. That's going to raise about $1.2 billion. They're offering between 145 to 148. As of September 30th, this advanced magazine publisher holds about 24% of all of the available shares for Reddit. However, they want you to understand that they're not looking at getting out of the stock. What they're doing is they're looking at leveraging their current holdings to raise cash. So they reiterated their long-term commitment to Reddit, stating that they're not selling shares directly, but engaging in a hedging activity through a broker. It's still sold off, Breno, 7.5% below 150 right now.
Yeah, which is still, an absolutely monstrous move coming off those August lows. So we'll see what happens today. I mean, not a heck of a lot of volume behind this move so far this morning, guys, but the big gap coming after the close yesterday.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, Reddit was poised for probably a little bit of a pullback anyways at some point. So you can throw it in the list of stocks that turn around after a 150 break, which obviously I'm kind of poking fun at NVIDIA. It was just vastly different. Reddit's action at the 150, it pulled it back yesterday only to end up at 158. So that was a case of the dip at 150 was a great one. I think that's the area I would look at today on any kind of a bounce. I just feel when you have news like this, on a Friday, if it fails a 150 level like this,
you heard it
like
here
pop
first.
and
Why
fade
don't I open up the
right off a 150 level?
I'm closing it.
I'm hearing Sharif there. 150 off the 150, I think is kind of like an over-under type level. Like if it gets above and fails it again, something like what you saw with NVIDIA, maybe not the exact prices, but like that kind of a failed pop and fade, and then maybe even like a head and shoulders look. That'd be what I would looking at for Reddit, but there's so many other things to watch. I mean, I'm staring up NVIDIA, Gap, SMCI is already broken out. I was just having a peek at Robinhood if MSTR proves to be too crazy. Because the thing is, if MSTR drags some things to the downside, you might find some other plays that you can work off. If it's just going too crazy, there's always Coinbase, which had been following it for a little bit. You can probably try out some Robinhood as well. So those will be in there if MicroStrategy is too nuts. So I might not be able to get to Reddit.
Yeah, definitely. I'm actually kind of surprised. I was like, I haven't looked at Reddit in a few weeks. Reddit's at 150.
Yeah.
What is going on? Nice little continuation since earnings, apparently. We got that nice gap up through that 100. We've only been running since then. And yeah, we've taken a bit of a pullback in the after hours, some decent relative volume as well. And yeah, no, maybe some share sale plan coming in and yeah, maybe like that article says, sparking some fear. There's definitely some selling coming in, but you can see, well, within range. Oh boy, man. Let's go to a higher time frame here. Yeah, so kind of coming up. Look at that nice little trend up. We break those highs, and then we just blast through with that earnings volume and continuing to get that push up going into the new year. So it should be interesting. I did not have eyes on this one, but it's starting to look like it's setting up for some bigger picture moves here, Neil. So definitely want to keep an eye out for, I think, well within range. Right here, you can see that first pullback off of earnings right here, holding this bit of a trend. But you already know what I like to do right away when I see a nice strong earnings candle right there. Throw that anchored VWAP up there. Shout out to Brent Shannon. You can see that we held that anchored VWAP on the couple of days after that earnings, and then we've been holding above it, now accelerating past that mark. So let's see if we can take a nice little healthy pullback, and if the bid is there, where will it catch? I think that VWAP is always a good place to look. 2169 though on Reddit. We're trading 145s, 46s. So we've got a lot of room to go all the way down there. But let's see if this trend holds up on Reddit as well. Absolutely surprising. This thing's wild.
a monstrous move for Reddit. I was just double checking. They don't have it on this chart, but I don't think they've reported yet. I don't recall them actually reporting this earnings period yet, but we'll keep an eye out for that. To come, a few little ones moving around here this morning. WCT just popping up in front of me once again on heavy volume, $2 right now. 24 million shares already traded here for Well Change Holdings. Is the top small cap mover right now. We were discussing some of the Chinese ADRs early on. Downside again today. We had earnings from some of the e-commerce names a couple days ago. JD, PDD, Baidu was the other one that reported as well. All of these downside again this morning. Wow, what a move for Baidu. This thing's down better part of $10 here in the matter of 2 days.
Yeah, tough look there, Brendo. I mean, I was reading some of the commentary for their earnings call yesterday. They're trying to do some stuff that's positive. You know, they got the robo-taxi going. They've got record amount of rides. They're also increasing their cloud offerings. They grew nicely there year over year, but it's just that constant headwind, the political headwind that keeps them back. So I'm personally staying away from these Chinese ADRs till we know a little bit more.
We're going to get Michael Lawson here in the next few minutes to talk about some of the bigger cap tech names this morning. But China, guys, continues to melt down here so far this week.
Fabian's here.
The Chinese ADRs have the China syndrome, melting down. You've probably never seen, and that's actually a classic movie. I'm just saying, it's a classic movie.
Which movie is this?
The China syndrome.
It's called the China syndrome.
Yeah, so the China it's basically like the specific type of like nuclear disaster. So they
okay.
it was like
I thought of as much because of meltdown.
Because of meltdown, yeah. Which is interesting. I really want to rewatch Chernobyl. That's a really powerful. There's the HBO documentary on Chernobyl. Okay. If you've never seen it, my goodness, it's it's crazy how close we came to the brink on that one. But Chinese ADRs, PDD, man. Yesterday, PDD, and the plan of action yesterday was, hey, we want to short off the 110 level on PDD. They had earnings. They're another day 2 earnings play like many. I should start from outside in here because that's what we usually do. Look, already trending down after the stimulus gap. The entirety of the stimulus gap got filled, essentially. Like this is when volume started picking up. In the middle of September, or sort of the end of September, you're breaking out of $100, went to 155. You retagged $100 yesterday. Round trip there on PDD. It did give us the short off the 110. That was pretty much it. Shorted it to VWAP, and that was the only trade. However, look at all the support down at 104 on Pinduoduo. That's the only thing I wrote down for this stock was, actually didn't put a 0 on my iPad. It says 14 fade, but it should read 104 fade, obviously. So if we can get anything out in the front, like another pop, I'd be looking at that 104. Like that's the area. Something like what it did yesterday and just patient. If that's not there, then I probably don't trade PDD. If you're looking at something like an Alibaba, very similarly, did not have a good day. It was really not even a pop and fade. It was just a straight gap, straight move down, and then a gap down again today. Baba gets interesting, and I'm not in there buying Alibaba today, but it did get back to the 200 period moving average. So if it can hold this, show any kind of a bottoming pattern off this level, then I'd be looking next week for Alibaba. It was actually close. So we're talking about some of our ideas because we're going to be putting out some stuff about trades for the upcoming week. Check that out this weekend. I was actually considering Alibaba, but elected to go in another place. You'll have to check our video over the weekend to be able to see that. But I'll be looking at Pinduoduo, but it's just one simple idea, just like yesterday. Got a nice pop and fade for a few bucks into VWAP. I'd look the same today. Yeah, no, China definitely. You're looking at a lot of these tickers. I'm pulling up the Hang Seng futures here. So this is pretty much what I start looking at now, just to kind of observe China. It gives you a better kind of perspective without all the gaps there to kind of see what's going on. And you can see that, again, as Neil said, September, you can see that nice little push-up that we had on the stimulus right there, but definitely looking like a backside, smelling like a backside right here. Lower lows, lower highs right here. And look at that trend break, absolutely beautiful, and that selling coming in aggressively off of that right there. Below 20,000, we're trading 19 twos right now. But yeah, that volume, like Neil said, came in all the way in and around 17 halves and 18s here
on the Hang Seng. So a lot of faders there for multiple weeks here in China as their futures kind of take a bit of a pullback as well after a strong move on volume, and now the volumes kind of start to fade off. So yeah, backside move on a lot of these China tickers for sure.
Right, let's bring in Michael Noss. There he is for a Friday morning. As mentioned, to get a take not only on the Magnificent Seven, some of the bigger cap tech names, Mr. Noss, but we'll touch on some other cap ranges this morning as well. That it's so, I mean, we've talked about this so many times in the past. It's so easy to get so narrow focused and have tunnel vision almost on the big names and what's moving and the Nvidias and the Teslas and the Apples of the world. There's so many other opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think part of it is because they're in the news all the time. Apple is going to be something that's interesting to talk about. It's going to move the market way more than some guy's corner store that's just big enough to be publicly traded. So what I'm going to show today is an interesting kind of look going down the cap scale. So the first chart I have here is just of the Mag 7. And for those who don't know, there's an ETF for everything nowadays. I really think that in coming years, I could probably trade only ETFs and be just fine. But MAGS is actually an ETF that just covers the Mag 7. So it's equally weighted of just those big names in there. Now, what I want to focus on is that where I have that orange arrow in the top right, and this is position in 5-day range. So it's just a way to say how close are we up to the high end of that 5-day range. So the basically how much are we close to the high of the week, we could say, roughly, give or take. So how well are we doing in comparison to everything else? This is a good way to look at relative strength, take volatility and all of those completely out of the equation. And you can see the Mag 7's about 41%. That means it's roughly halfway down from that 5-day range. It's not near the high. It's not even above its 50% area, which would be kind of halfway on that weekly candle. Now, the next chart, if we take a look, is the S&P 500. That had a great reversal yesterday. A nice looking chart still. I just drew that blue line just to show, hey, we're still holding the area that we broke out of, and that's looking fantastic. That's about 66%. So it's doing a little bit better than the Mag 7 relative to itself. Again, this is a way to take volatility and all of that out of the equation. And it's doing a little bit better, but it's still not at or close to the high end of its 5-day range or its weekly range. And the next chart, going down the cap scale again, is the mid caps, MDY. So S&P 500, you have to be over $10 billion in market cap. To be a mid cap, you have to be between $2 and $10 billion in market cap. And that's 93% of its 5-day range. So very, very close to the high end of its 5-day range. Just showing and just doing this to paint the picture that, yes, a lot of the big cap names, they're interesting to talk about, and they're obviously moving the markets, and they're going to be moving the news story. But as we go down this cap scale, as we go to smaller and smaller companies, and we look at these indexes, they're performing better and better. And we're seeing that when, the Mag 7 was not even halfway through its 5-day range. The SPY was a little bit closer, and then the mid caps is really, really close. The next one is the IWM, which is our small caps, which is about 80%, which is roughly the same, give or take, as the mid caps. And that's 2,000 of the smallest companies out there. So to be a small cap, you need to be under, I think it's over $250 million in market cap, but under that $2 billion in market cap range. And then the next chart here is the IWC. And this is stocks under $250 million in market cap. These are the corner stores, the place that you may recognize in your local state, but if you go to another state, you wouldn't know they're there, the smaller company. That's also 77%. So I do a lot here where I'm talking about different sectors that could be seeing rotation, different areas of the market that, hey, maybe gold's hot or uranium's doing good or bonds or whatever it is. But sometimes I think it makes sense to look at the market like this and say, is it large cap names that are doing well? Is it mid cap names or small cap names that are doing well? And in this case, it seems like that's the case, that we're starting to get a rotation away from these big guys into some of these smaller names. Now, I've heard reasons why. I heard this could be a rate play, saying that rates are going to potentially continue lower. That benefits the smaller companies. I've also heard it could be a regulatory environment that's coming up. But This just means that if you are someone who's heavily focused on the Nvidia, the Adobes, the Netflix, the Amazons, all these massive names, it might make sense to start looking down this cap scale a little bit. So when I'm here on Friday, I'm prepping myself for what I'm planning on doing on Friday and through the weekend. I think I'm going to be going through a lot of these smaller cap or mid cap names and trying to find opportunities there. And I just think it would make sense that from a investment point of view or a swing trading point of view, it may make sense to do the same. Now, from a day trading point of view, you're always going to go where the action are. Those big cap names are going to have the liquidity. But I think for myself, I'm going to be looking at the small caps over the next coming weeks.
When it comes to where we are in the overall landscape of this market and this market cycle, how much focus should we pay attention to on the simple fact that everything else is up so much, as you mentioned, some of the Magnificent Seven, NVIDIA specifically, some of the semis. On the other end of the scale, there's still a lot of money that needs to be put to work and put into something here. So is it, or how much of this is the simple fact that there's focus being now paid to other areas of the market?
I think that's 100% it. If you're someone who is a hedge fund manager and you've owned NVIDIA and Bitcoin and AI related names and you've been doing fantastic, at some point, you're just going to have a fund that's all NVIDIA. And, your investors are going to come to you and say, hey, I'm paying you to be a stock picker. So you got to sell some of that and then redistribute that money into smaller names. So I think a lot of this is that looking for what the next thing will be. Maybe it's the market kind of telling us that the AI and the chips name may have reached a bit of a plateau. I'm not saying it's going to crash from here, but, NVIDIA, if it doubles from here, I think it's larger than all of Japan. So, it's starting to get to the point where these things are so big that I think it has to be okay, we got to figure out if we're trying to outperform the market, we can't just own what the biggest thing in the market is. We got to find out what's next. And I think we're seeing some of that exploration now in the market.
And when it comes to, this is not an investment thesis per se. We're just saying at this point in time where the market is, what has happened to this point in time might be time to find some other opportunities elsewhere.
Yeah, and it's just the way it works. And it's, Ralph Alcampora, who created the CMT, always says rotation's the lifeblood of a bull market. You need to see this money flowing into different industries. Our job is to try to just stick and move. It might be small caps for the next little bit, and then, I don't know, might go back to AI-related stocks. Who knows? But yeah, we're just trying to follow where that money is flowing to try to make sure those wins are at our back.
Michael Noss, have a great weekend. Back with us on Monday. Maybe we'll touch on more of these.
Yep, talk to you on Monday.
I'm stealing that stick and move reference often, but not necessarily in the rotation term. I'm just talking about when you're looking for that next trading opportunity, right? Wait for a setup. This is the stock I like. This is where I like it. Get your shot. Take it. Get in. Get out like a sniper as a day trader, then move to the next opportunity. That's what you got to be able to do. Can't just sit there, doing that same thing. Like if every time you come in with the left, a counterpunch is getting you right back, then you got to find another opportunity. I do like what's going on with IWM though, just technically, and I know Michael always covers a lot, but IWM here, one of the things I love, the lifeblood, I don't disagree at all. The lifeblood of any kind of a bull market is going to be rotation, just that new money want to find somewhere else to go when profit taking comes in. The other thing I like, lifeblood of an uptrend, is previous resistance turning into support. To me, that's what carries things. When key price levels that are obvious start to hold on the way back, it's a gorgeous dip into 225, into the 50-period moving average. What more can you ask for in IWM? Now, obviously, you got to get to the highs, so I think that's a little bit of a different story. Like a lot of things, it was all stair-step up yesterday. And one of the points I was making in the lesson of the day, midday, was when looking for longs. The reason why I was the long I had yesterday in the middle of the day was on SMCI was simply, okay, well, what wasn't, when everything was breaking down, what wasn't breaking underneath prior levels? SMCI held pre-market lows, held prior day resistance levels, and it bounced off of them and was making higher lows when the market was still looking semi-weak. So that's the long I liked going into the afternoon. I think if you hunt that way out there for opportunities, that's what you would have found in something like IWM. As the market's going down at the open, the next push down where you're getting fresh lows in the NASDAQ, and NVIDIA was making fresh lows, and Google was making fresh lows, and everything else was making fresh lows. You're higher, low, higher, low. So then when everything starts to settle down and go up, well, there's an easier long trade to play into. Lots of things rebounded, but there were ones that you didn't have to fight a downward trend to be playing long. Ideally, that's what you want to do when the market's falling. We all strive to do it. It's not easy. I mean, I fall victim to it all the time, but I just wanted to point that one out because IWM gave you that in an already existing uptrend.
Yeah, no, I like that. Again, Michael Moss pointed out this ticker MAGS, which is again the Mag 7 ETF there. Been a nice ride since its inception there. Our IPO starting off in and around that 24 low, trading at 51s. But yeah, no, for the swing idea, it seems like this one has been working out quite well. As again, you guys know, the Mag 7 have been trending nicely, hitting almost a lot of them hitting their all-time highs in the past couple of months. And if they're not near their all-time highs, they're kind of making their way or building up into that as well. So I think that's definitely a good look there on MAGS. Now I do look at this ticker every now and then, but as of right now, we're taking a bit of a slowdown here sideways. But bigger picture seems like it's in a nice trend. So definitely one to keep an eye out for. And yeah, no, I definitely agree with the stick and move. Yeah, as day traders, we got to stick with what's hot. Where's the liquidity at? Where's the party at? Where's the volume at? And that's where we probably want to be. And yesterday, definitely, party was on MSTR. The party was on NVIDIA day one. And I think today the party is definitely going to be maybe continuing on NVIDIA on MSTR. So those two names definitely on watch. Snowflake already breaking yesterday's highs as of right now. So that's an earnings day 2 play that might be a little hot coming into today. So yeah, a lot of options, a lot of opportunities on the day today. Very excited to see what today brings. At the end of the week, it is a Friday, Neil. So
that is true.
It'd be good.
Don't forget about those big optionable levels. Right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of times you'll get some gravity towards them. Like if NVIDIA gets to one, let's say it presses to 150.
How many people do you think had 150 calls?
Everybody. Okay, it's an exaggeration, but obviously
I got to check what the chain is.
Like it's got to be huge, and that'll be a reason why if it does approach that 150, I'm thinking it has trouble breaking away from it. But yeah, make sure you keep that in mind. I think it's going to be a lot of action. MSTR, of course, is going to be ridiculously volatile. Don't sleep, as I said. Don't sleep on the notion of going over and looking at things like Coinbase if MSTR is too crazy for you, because I think that's
there's other tickers as well, like MSTR leveraged. I think there's MSTU. Right, which is the 2 times long ETF right there. Now, definitely, it's not like $400 or $500. It's 184.70 we're trading at right now. It was trading at 300 yesterday. So there is MSTU, and I think there's MSTX if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, MSTX is the other 2 times long ETF. A little bit less priced here, trading at 116. So there's other vehicles that you can indulge in if you are not comfortable with the volatility and the spread of MSTR. So the trade is definitely, like yesterday, that's a mistake that I made. I was like, oh, MSTR, I'm like watching it, I'm like drooling over it. I'm like, do I really want to risk 5 points on this thing? No. And then I realized last night when I'm doing my scans, a bunch of these tickers coming up on scan, I'm like, wow, I didn't even realize these existed. It's like coming into today, there could be some options, lower priced, less spread, less volatility, but giving you that same kind of move. Well, they are 2x leverage, but you know what I mean. A little bit more, I guess, satiating for less of a risk appetite.
Oh goodness, right? Satiating and appetite in the same sentence. Wow,
boy,
this is out of control, man. Usually, so you can't keep up with Obi in his vocabulary. Let's get to the desk before I have to start coming up with school words myself.
59.70, guys. That's where we closed out yesterday on the ES December contract. We're down 0.1 right now, so here's a look. We did defend that 59.50 yesterday, which was a previous area of resistance, so that's a good look. Now we're still looking at that overnight high as resistance, 59.77. But if we take out that 3/4 of a point level, we're looking at 6,000 as resistance, Brego.
If you haven't done so yet, make sure you grab the watch list. Jump down to the description of this video. Top link takes you to that sign-up page. You need a email address, and then you get everything you need to know in one nice, neat package delivered right to you every single morning before we come on at 8:30. Hey, guess what? Let's talk about MicroStrategy. Why not? We're just teasing that 100,000 level on Bitcoin. This one, as the guys were just mentioning, gets absolutely crushed yesterday. We're hanging out bottom end of the range here, 398 coming into play. Right now, trying to hold. It is still positive on the day, but what a move back to the downside it was yesterday for MSTR.
Crazy, Brando. 543 the day earlier, 397 the subsequent day, all after Citron research revealed that they had a short position on MSTR, despite the fact that they're still bullish on Bitcoin. They did praise MicroStrategies back in 2020 as a good Bitcoin play, but now that they're arguing that the volume on MSTR no longer aligns with what Bitcoin is doing. So the firm attributes this disconnect essentially to the investment in options market. So they're like, look, there are other good vehicles you can use to get into Bitcoin. You don't necessarily need to go through MSTR. Just to let you know, though, MicroStrategy is the largest corporate Bitcoin holder. They own 331,200 Bitcoins, Brendo. That's 1.5% of all the outstanding Bitcoins out there, with a market value of about 107. Well, sorry, their market cap, MicroStrategy's market cap, is 107 billion at the time of writing, which is 3.5 times higher than the total combined value of their Bitcoin. So future projection of future value there.
And remember that short note as well, the caveat of that was 2.6 times the value of Bitcoin was their holding. Exactly. So they were saying it's way too overvalued compared to BTC itself. And they actually said they're long Bitcoin and short MSTR at the same time.
So in just the time that the boys at the desk were going over that, there was like 3 or 4 other opportunities that Obi's going to be able to list for you if you're interested. And let's just start there, because if you don't want to trade a $400 MicroStrategy, there's a few others, and a lot of people in the chat want to thank you for throwing those out there in addition to MSTU, et cetera. Can you just maybe give a few others? You found a really good one.
I found a dope one. I was like, oh, she's looking kind of cute here. Misty, MSTY, is $34 right now, and it is a MSTR option income strategy ETF right here. It did about 10 million volume yesterday, 2x RVol, and I was just looking at this. I was like, okay, where does that 500 on MSTR come in? That 500 is 42 here. 42 breakdown on MSTY is the 500 breakdown right here, and I'm like, wow, this thing gave you the opportunity to risk 30 pennies for a flush all the way down to 36s from 42s, or day lows if you're holding their 32s. Absolutely wild. So MSTY definitely one to watch out for. SMST once again. Again, this is a short ETF, so this thing ticked up yesterday, doing significant volume yesterday as well. This thing is much less price. It's trading at 6.24 right now, but yesterday we got that push up in and around that $4 on that opening range break. So SMST is one of them, and then we covered a couple of these, MSTX as well, 118, trading at 118, nice little flush below that 200 yesterday, and then MSTU as well. So it should be interesting. So let's just go to MSTR and take a look at the chart here. I'm going to go straight up to the hourly and see what is going on. So we get that strong little push. Don't need that. Irrelevant. Strong little push to the downside after some nice push up post earnings there. Nice little run up on MSTR, trading at a high of 548.20. Right now trading at 401.29. So it should be interesting. I'll be watching some of these prices from the after hours, and going into the end of the day as well. And then going to a 3-minute chart once again. I do consider this a little bit of an event. So therefore, I think I just want to drop a bit of an anchored VWAP right on the opening candle of yesterday. You can see that we did come back into that anchored. Now that anchored is probably very close to VWAP, intraday VWAP as well, but a little bit more precise coming in off of that strong volume off of the open. So you can see that we did come into that later on in the day 480s, and we rejected it. So it's a little bit of a failure to follow through of that 500 lower high as well. It took us much lower today. I'm going to be watching for some of those prices, pre-market levels as well. This low from yesterday, right here at that 425. Confluence, end of day consolidation pop, can't get through that. Pre-market can't get through that. Coming into the open, can't get through that. 425 looking interesting here on MSTR as well. 447 is where that anchor is sitting. So that's what I'm looking for on MSTR on the day today. And we gave you some other vehicles to exercise your MSTR ideas on, which may be more suitable for your risk appetite. Definitely for mine, I would say so.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of the key thing is like if you get a continuation play short, there's a million levels to look at. And I think that's one of those, when there's that many levels that's set up for you on a pop and feed. Like I always like pre-market highs if they have confluence, as Obi said. And so 425, I think is obvious, the 45 to 50 area for sure. But generally speaking, when I'm going through and like making the note, it's like I can talk about the things that are not as close to the level. But then if you are close to something like that 380 bottom, because it's short sale restricted, right? And again, that's just the uptick rule in effect. But if it puts in this kind of a candle off of 380, and it's a very particular setup, you guys have seen it before. It's a trend reversal type trade, bottoming candle, trend reverse. If it does that in and around that bottom from yesterday, then that would be a play I look for a pop back into VWAP, which is right in here, the volume weighted average price. So that's one trade setup. And then the other is the support and resistance, which would just be resistance, and the first spot is the 25, and this next spot is the 450. But as I said before, I don't want to sleep on something like a Coinbase. If MSTR is going absolutely ham, and there is that reversal, you might be able to catch a bit of a lag on Coin. If you're wondering what happened here on Coin at VWAP, MSTR just reignited the short, and it was like an easy VWAP short on Coinbase. I'm going to have my eyes on this as well. There's not a fundamental reason why they have to follow each other. It's just a matter of being able to pivot to something else in case you miss a chance and you're not fast enough on MicroStrategy. That's all. Like if it goes pop and fade and I can't catch it, I might look elsewhere. And Coinbase was a pretty good proxy if you were doing that yesterday.
Downside this morning, almost 1% already, 0.87 right now in negative territory after getting crushed yesterday. Looks like they're getting closer and closer to being forced to spin out or divest in some way, shape, or form Chrome. The browser business, at least at this point, we get this story from OpenAI or more on this story from OpenAI. I mean, we touched on this, I want to say a month ago was the first time it was kind of rumblings floating around. I mean, when you step back and think about it, what more could they, I mean, the UI development, the UI experience of a browser product from OpenAI, it's already, like ChatGPT is already a search product. It's just, packaging it in something that looks more like a traditional browser product could potentially come here at any point, I guess, from OpenAI and ChatGPT. But at this point, it's more about Google having to, take this huge chunk of their business and get rid of it, essentially.
Yeah. Well, quite frankly, yeah, exactly, because nobody's really using search in the same way. At least I'm not. And from the people I'm talking to, like yourself and others, are not doing it that way. So here's the thing. When we got rumblings about this a couple of months ago, nothing was etched in stone. It looks as if things got a bit more concrete. They're reaching out to major app developers, the likes of Condé Nast, Redfin, Eventbrite, Priceline, all to be able to try to get an app possibly to the App Store here. It's nothing new, Brendo. We know exactly how people have been changing their habits. And, this doesn't work well, obviously, with Google, with the Department of Justice investigating them at the same time. We wiped out $120 billion in market value yesterday in one day. Big move down for a Mag 7 name.
And let's be honest, I mean, Alphabet as a company is a completely different, obviously, company without Chrome as a part of it. Meanwhile, just seeing Anthropic getting another $4 billion from Amazon here, also announcing that they've made AWS their primary cloud partner, just coming across.
I was surprised yesterday by the depth of the drop in Alphabet for a few reasons. One, because usually antitrust news in the Mag 7 gets a yawn and 0.5% to 1% down. None of this is even happening on a short-term time frame. It's a long-term time frame, if it were even to happen. On top of that, okay, so when you really think about it, and if they do divest Chrome and we all open up our browsers, people are lazy and they're just going to select. A lot of people are going to select Google anyway, so they'll probably retain a lot of that customer base. And then there's a chance that none of this even happens. So I'd like to think, and I said this in the afternoon yesterday, I'd like to think that this should overall not be that bad for Alphabet, but let it calm down. It's held the 200-period moving average at $164. So I look for that line of support in today. I like the fact that it's about that 165. So it's a simple support play. It's not a top idea because I want to be in something that I'm expecting to move a little bit more. But I'm looking for this. If it can hold on to this 164, I'm probably going to be a buyer of Google and just take advantage of what I think is a little bit of an overreaction yesterday. But for today, I'm not really looking at that trade. And don't worry, Vasil in the chat. See your super chat there. Shout out to you. We appreciate you. We love all our viewers. We appreciate super chat. Just make sure you hit that like. Make sure you hit that subscribe so we can grow the community. And we love all of your questions. We try to get to as many as possible. It's just a discussion about the markets, and we have our live trading going. Yeah, we're going to get to gap for sure. You got some calls. You're looking to, like, you want to hold on to it. We don't give financial advice. I can tell you I am looking for long entries in GPS as a day trade today. And we are going to get to that right at the end of the rundown because that's a big one.
Yeah, no, Gap definitely a one on watch. We'll get to that one soon. Google, though, interesting look here. I was talking about this one in the pre-market with Brendo and Sharif as well. I was just like, yeah, that thing sold off like crazy yesterday, and it was doing over 3 times the relative volume for majority, if not all of the day. Now, something like a large cap doing 3 times RVOL on not earnings, and even on earnings, sometimes they're struggling to do 3 times the relative volume. So a lot of volume definitely went on Google yesterday. You can see here I have a 5-period relative volume. You can start off with about 4 times, 3 times, and then that kind of dwindles down to like 2.8. But keeping it relatively, like you can see the RVOL bars here, relatively smooth and flat there, coming in at that 3 times relative volume. So it should be interesting. A lot of selling coming into this. And you saw the rest of the market and some of these other tickers as well. All of them did eventually catch a bid or traded sideways. You know, chips were pretty strong going into the close as well. But Google not really showing that kind of sentiment there, trading near or pretty much in and around its VWAP going into the end of the day. Absolutely crushed here. So I'm going to be watching for some of these lows right here right away. If I'm seeing that, okay, we get a strong volume day down with a consolidation underneath or in and around VWAP near day lows, I'm automatically looking at the day lows right there. 163.70. If the selling continues, if the sellers are still not done, I'm going to be looking for this reference right here, prior day low, to see what Google will have in store for us. And you can look at this as well, a bit of consolidation high going into the close. That could be interesting. 168s. We're trading at 166s. I don't know what it's going to do off of that. What is that? Do what you do best. What's that? That's funny. Hey, Edge is not that bad. You know, Microsoft Edge is not that bad.
Not that bad.
No. We've come a long way from Explorer. Let's say that. Yeah.
Yeah.
We were exploring, and now we have some Edge.
There's options out there.
Let's go.
Let's talk about China.
Yeah, back downside to the tune of about 2% across the board here for some of these ADRs this morning. I mean, we touched on some of these earnings reports that came out this week. All ugly, worse than expected, right across the board. There's this late yesterday. Alibaba reshaping some of their e-commerce division, naming a new unit CEO. That's a pretty ugly gap this morning, 2.25 right now, but back to basically pre-market highs here for BABA.
Yeah, we continue to sell off on these Chinese ADRs since the October peak, Brendo, which really is underscoring the frustration that the market's having with the pace that Beijing is rolling out this fiscal stimulus. We know we're going to get about 3 trillion yuan worth of stimulus. Keeping an eye on that. There's also the concern that Donald Trump, back at the helm in January, could help complicate things a little bit. So we'll keep an eye on these, but it's been a tough trade since October.
EVs especially. There's XPeng, another gap to the downside. Third one so far this week. I think it's the worst off. Yeah, it's the worst off. 4+ right now. NIO also negative. Li Auto also negative. I don't see any of them that are even close to break even at this point.
The whole space is down, but I can tell you, if it wasn't for SoFi, Alibaba was going to be my trade idea for next week that we're going to put out on the weekend, and it was really just having to do with, and again, all trades are kind of if-then statements, but you are right now bouncing off the 200-period moving average on Alibaba. Like it's already hit it once here at $82, and you're getting a little bit of a bounce here in the pre-market. So a hold in front of that today is what I'd be looking for. I'm not saying it's going to fill in the gap or anything crazy, but that's the support level on Alibaba. Kind of already discussed Pinduoduo, but Alibaba just going to look to see if it can hold that 200-period moving average in a general sense. Maybe even look for a place to add in the long term next week if it can do so. And then today, that would be the bounce spot for me down at $82. But we have a couple more names to get to. We want to make sure, because we have GPS, we still have Reddit, and we've got to make sure we talk about NVIDIA too as well.
Yeah, of course. PDD, again, we looked at the Hang Seng earlier right there, definitely looking like we're pulling back off of some of those, some of that action we got off of the stimulus run there. We've been breaking lower there on the Hang Seng. If you guys want to check that out, that's HSI is the three-letter, I guess, code or ticker or whatever you want to call it for that. But PDD day 2 earnings could be some good confluence here. Pretty much sideways, very compressed action here. Oh boy, Neil, look at what PDD did yesterday. Pretty much can't even holds that 105 and then gets a little crushed. But look at that tightness that it has. Now we know this name is known for a little bit of its volatility and didn't really have much going into the close. So a little bit of a consolidation off of that earnings report. I'm going to be watching some of these lows here. Pre-market lows are confluencing with some of this pre-market low from yesterday, earnings day 1, at those 102s, 100 mark right there. Reaction lows all the way down at 97s. Now again, definitely want to be watching the futures, the Hang Seng futures, if you're trading some of these names at the same time. So that's what I'll be looking at if I am going to be trading China today. But no, definitely a lot of other tickers on watch today that could give us much better opportunities. But definitely China backside is definitely there.
Some RDDT Reddit this morning getting a bit of a hit here. It was after the close yesterday. We get this announcement that the majority stakeholder going to use the value of their holdings to raise a credit facility. So downside we go after the close yesterday. We're holding on to that support level though right now. 145 for Reddit after ending the day yesterday near 160. What a day.
Yeah, it's a great looking chart, even with the 7% pullback that we've got today. Guys, here's the deal. I kind of gave you the 411 when we started, so I won't belabor that again, but it is a company by the name of Advanced Magazine Publishers. They hold about, I believe, 24% of Reddit's outstanding shares, and they're looking at leveraging their ownership of their shares to generate cash for an entirely different reason. They are reiterating their long-term commitment to Reddit, and they're doing it through a derivative product. So if you're wondering about if they're really selling, they're looking at raising capital.
Just reading more on this Amazon note with Anthropic as well. So this additional $4 billion going into Anthropic now brings Amazon's total investment to $8 billion, retaining its position as a minority investor. AWS again set to become their primary cloud provider.
Yeah, good look for Anthropic. Get that cash, baby. But that Reddit, look, the Reddit move, I feel like it was probably going to, get some kind of a pullback in this range, just based on the pattern, regardless of the news. Because if you look at it on the daily chart, it's been like since it made the breakaway, and obviously that breakthrough 80 was nasty to the upside. Anyone short that one's getting worked. It's got a decent trend that it's put in with some pretty solid pullbacks. We're talking 10% pullbacks. So with that 150 failure, I just look at this and say, well, 150 today, obviously that's going to be a big price. In the aftermarket, it held. That would be the old line in the sand. I just realized when we were talking about it first, I didn't really have it on my note, and then we went over it. I'm like, oh, this does set up pretty decently for a bit of a mean reversion. If it tries to break and fails a 150 break, we had to pay for locates here at Real Trading. So I did go ahead and pay. They were really cheap, which they usually are. What was it? It was, like there's a lot of zeros there. Essentially for like 100 shares, it costs like 3 cents. Basically, super cheap for locates on Reddit. So in case it goes there, I just wanted to have them, just so we're locked and loaded in case.
Nice. Yeah, no, I like that idea. A bit of a backside potential coming in here. Definitely breaking the trend of yesterday in the after hours with that sell coming in, but strong bid it had yesterday, 2.5 relative volume, doing significantly more in the pre-market. Today here, we're doing about 10 times for the pre-market session there on Reddit. Now, again, I discovered this ticker. Well, I discovered it a while back, but I discovered what it was doing this morning, and I was like, oh boy, since when did Reddit get to 150? That's absolutely wild. And lo and behold, we had earnings on October 29th here on Reddit, and we've only been bidding up since then, so it's still well within that trend here. We kind of pointed that out earlier with that anchored VWAP that's anchored to the earnings and this trend line right here. So if we do take a pullback, I think we can come all the way down to 130s as well and stay within this uptrend that we've been holding. That's where this buying has kind of shown up a couple of times. So that's where I'll be looking for potential bids to come in, or if we reject that 150 to take inventory into that bid or a suspected bid there. But 122 is that anchored VWAP that we've been holding since earnings as well. So no idea what it's going to do. 150 is going to be interesting coming off of the open as well. But that flush is definitely maybe a little concerning for potential short-term longs that have been in here. This is the first kind of aggressive selling that we've got in the after hours. Let's see if we get that continuation coming off of the open on Reddit.
Ooh, gap time.
Let's talk about Gap. We touched on it early on this morning. Earnings coming in better than expected this morning. Back, I mean, we just set a new session high here, pulling back a little bit. Beat across the board there. I mean, it did dip initially off the report after the close yesterday, but then straight to the upside. Huge move here, almost 20% at the highs.
Hard to find anything wrong with this report, guys. Better than expected results on the top and bottom line, boosting the sales guidance to the even higher end of the range. Gross margins continue to grow, so good look there. Now here's a deal. Old Navy grew only by 1%. Gap, their actual Gap, only grew by 1%. Banana Republic by 2%, but their athletic wear, Athleta, grew by 4% year over year. And according to the company, it would have been a lot higher if they didn't have to close 180 stores and reduce sales by 2% because of the hurricanes, Brendo, so it would have been better.
More retail earnings to come getting into the next couple of weeks here as well, but pretty good start as far as retail earnings, guys.
Yeah, can't sleep on 18%. I mean, obviously, pretty good. 14.5% short float there. Now, keep in mind, some of our charts, when we'll show them, you have to go way back to before when it was GPS. Some charts are not going to show it with the old symbol. 25.5 was a pretty solid level locally on Gap, but that's the only significant one. However, there was a nice, and Obi's going to show you where the anchored VWAP is. I think it's just chilling out around just underneath 25, I believe. But anyways, they had this nice channel in the aftermarket where it consolidated, essentially 24.5 to 25.5. But the way I see it, this is the place that it has to hold, and if it cannot hold on to that, I don't want to be fighting a gap fill. Pun not intended. So I'm looking dip buy in that range off the open, either out in front, or if it comes into the zone, it's got to come out the upside. Because if it goes into that zone and comes out the downside and I'm still long it, then that means I've done something wrong, and that would have been violating a rule. So it's going to require some patience off the open. The volume is starting to kick in here on Gap. And then just very quickly, because we only have 2 minutes to go here, I just wanted to make a quick note about NVIDIA. I'm going to go for longs in NVIDIA into 150, but I don't want 150 like yesterday. It's just going to be a different story. And obviously 145 was a good level, so if it can hold 145 immediately, I'd look for some trend longs. If we lose 145, you basically have 40. It's just feel like a broken record because like yesterday we said the same thing. There's 43 and 40. So those are the levels I'm looking at for NVIDIA on dip buys. And then last thing, imbalances, nothing significant. NEM, Archer is there, 460. Wolf is there, buy imbalance of 300,000, but it's a cheap stock. So no significant imbalances early.
Yeah, no, for Gap, this is what I'm looking at right here. This is a 3-hour chart. So we are gapping above some prior levels there, not necessarily at 52-week high or all-time highs just yet. I got the most recent high at that 30-32 mark right there from earlier on this year in June. You can see we hit some of those prices off of earnings again that were reported on May 30th right there. So should be interesting holding above the anchored right now, as Neil pointed out. So there is that anchored sitting at 24.77. So looking for a potential continuation there. We're already holding above prior or after hour highs as of right now. Some of these lows coming in at 25.75. So interesting prices. 27.07 is the high of day in the pre-market right there. So it should be interesting going forward. Again, Gap. Let's see if we can get a nice push there or get a nice opportunity. I don't know what it's going to do there. Going to be watching that anchored VWAP in that $25 mark on Gap. Nice little beat, and yeah, you pointed out that it has an above a 10% short float as well. Report about 24% on EPS and 0.5% on revenue. So again, one of the top names on watch. But again, can't dismiss NVIDIA or MSTR or some of the other earnings names that are moving around as well on the day today. So going to be patient, going to sit on my hands.
Yeah, you would have seen me just scanning Rocket Labs. We only have 30 seconds to go till the open. There was a question about Rocket Labs yesterday as well. It's a squeeze play, and it is breaking out on the daily chart, as you can see up here. I didn't have a trade plan for it here, but it is a big-time continuation. It's probably worth having up on a scanner if you're into momentum names, but it's not where I'm going to be looking. Obviously, we've talked a little bit about MicroStrategy. We've talked about NVIDIA. We've talked about the Gap as well off that open looking for dips. But ADR, let's ring it in 3, 2, and 1 on a Friday. There we go, just in time. We've got the opening bell for you because that's what we do around here. So NVIDIA not really doing much off the open. I do see Gap already starting to pull back a little bit here. Not much, just about 20 or 30 cents. MicroStrategy, what are we doing here with MicroStrategy? A little bit of a dip down. So the look with MicroStrategy is if there's a big flush down, I'd look for a reversion or SSR bounce play kind of off of those lows. Otherwise, we were thinking pop and fade, and this is not popping whatsoever to give you any kind of fade. Tesla's starting to go to the upside here. Just looked up and saw Tesla at 343, still going. So Tesla looking pretty strong off the open, but I got the eyeballs on NVIDIA. NVIDIA, Gap still falling a little bit here, and MicroStrategy now 396. That's continuing to look pretty weak.
Yeah, I'm just patiently watching this this Gap and MSTR off of the open there. 25s incoming. So we talked about that that anchored VWAP being in and around. It's at 24.79 right now. So we're holding 25s as of right now with the bid coming in a little bit there. So just going to continue watching this. If the bid holds, yeah, and the same question I kind of ask when something is strong in a given direction. If the bid is real, where will it catch? And it seems like as of right now, potentially we've pulled back into 25. Let's see if it catches on the 25. I have MU. We were looking at that one yesterday, Neil. Micron is breaking yesterday's highs at 103.30, so that's pretty strong right there. TSM to the downside. SMCI still trading at 31. NVIDIA, though, very, very tight in that consolidation right there. You can see the NASDAQ right here coming in and pretty much trading in and around 20,800. Now, it's only been about a minute and 40 seconds since the open, so still have to be a little bit more patient, wait for some of these things to set up. Let's see. Okay, NTAP taking a nice little flush. You know, they had earnings day one as well with a bit of a, is it a double beat? Yeah, they had a double beat as well, both on revenue and EPS. So they're taking a bit of a pullback right here, and ESTC with the pullback as well. Snowflake still holding above prior day's highs. Reddit coming in with a bit of a flush as well, trading 144s and some change. So a lot of opportunity. There comes NVIDIA breaking that range low as well. Should be interesting. I was looking at CPRT, Copart as well as another earnings name. So a lot of opportunities. Let us know in the chat what you guys are trading. Yes, ACK. NVIDIA is doing nothing as of right now. So we'll wait and be patient to see if that makes a bit of a decision there off of that tight consolidation that we had in the pre-market. There goes MSTR apparently pushing to the upside. So I'm going to be patient. I'm going to watch, wait for opportunities to kind of fall into my lap, and then maybe take some stabs at that, Neil. So I see that you are already in a bit of gap.
First look, and again, like Gap did. I've got to avoid using Gap with Gap. Gap did pull back into that zone I was looking at, 24.50 to 25. It then was able to hold in the midpoint of the range. There was a refreshing battle going on here at 25. Both directions, so I want to look for a push back into 25.50 if we can get there. If it ends up holding this range the entirety of the day, I'd want to look for some higher lows, but this is just the initial bounce on. I don't want to, I know a lot of people are probably looking at MicroStrategy as well, but we just got into Gap. So MicroStrategy did do a dip, not to 380, it's now on the upside push. So you can, it could just be like maybe that was the SSR bounce off the 400 failed breakdown, and you could be headed higher. Don't want to ignore 425 and about 440 to 450 range, looking for some mean reverts there on MSTR as that one is starting to head back into the upside. As you said, NVIDIA is doing absolutely nothing. I'll call that a pretty big nothing burger. Reddit, no pop to be faded. although it is starting to head lower in here, looking pretty, I don't know, you really do have to be patient so far, because outside of MicroStrategy, I'm not seeing any big moves. And what is a mean reversion was just asked by a casual in the chat. Mean reversion just means you have a stock which is going parabolic or making an outsized move, and then it regresses toward like the average. So an example, just quickly, because I'm on this chart and it's easy to point out, like a mean reversion would be like this move in here. You get an outsized move to the downside, it pulls back into something like a VWAP or into a key price level when it goes further extended. That's all we mean for that. It would be like either a pullback off of a high or bounce off of a low.
Yeah, this gap is right back down into this anchored here. 24 is in some change. 24.76 is the day low as of right now. Still kind of churning right here. No real kind of, it doesn't really look like there's too much of a support here. Here we go, breaking a little bit lower here. Not really seeing what we're looking for. And this is what I was talking about with Neil. Sometimes the indicator is not, it's just an indicator at the end of the day. You want confluence. You want to see, okay, if I'm looking at VWAP and I'm looking for buying to come in at VWAP, is it actually there? Not just being like, okay, the price is at VWAP, so I'm going to get long there. Yeah, no, I did initially show a bit of a bounce back through that 25, which was nice. It was enticing. I almost punched into that, but then it didn't really follow through. We're trading 24 halves right now, so taking a bit of a pullback here on gap. I guess that gap is filling back to the downside.
There's going to be a few of those.
So yeah, definitely. You know, we can see. You know, we'll see if gap gives us some good opportunities to get well dressed. But you know, it's pulling back to the downside as of right now, while the rest of the market is pushing up. So I have no idea. I'm not really looking. That's not what I'm looking for, right? I'm looking for a bid to show up, and as of right now, there's no bid showing up on this gap, as sellers are still kind of in charge off of the open here. Getting crushed is the bid. What's going on, Adara?
Speaking of gap here, we have some sympathy moves. JWN and M, so Nordstrom and Macy's both up a little bit here. Macy's of the two getting a little bit more volume. This one up here about 4.5% with this nice pop off the open and what looks like a gap sympathy play. But it's also worth noting here, we have CNBC reporting, this came out pre-market, that at least 50 of the largest U.S. retailers, including Gap and Macy's and Nordstrom, apparently increased the ARPs here, the interest rates on their store credit cards ahead of the Fed rate cuts. So that was in an effort to protect their profit margins. So keep an eye on M here, guys, as well as JWN. And of course, Gap on that day one earnings move. We do also, just to let you guys know, have flash PMI data coming from S&P at 9:45.
Thank you very much there, Darren. As I said, if I get a setup in that range on Gap and I'm still long when it breaks out underneath that channel, then I've made a mistake. But we got it through 25, stop underneath the prior bar low, and it took it out, and I'm out. We followed our rule there. Now, could I have scalped it for 20 cents? Yes, but that wasn't the move I was looking for in that moment. I was looking for a little bit better. I can tell you what is going. Slap ye old fail. For number 4 on the note was SMCI, and SMCI is the one that's going. While I was staring down NVIDIA to see if it could hold the bid, SMCI has decided to absolutely fly. So this one's gonzo. It's that $30.50 level from yesterday. There it is, that double top that wouldn't break for us in the afternoon. Ends up holding like a champion. Let's look for maybe like a VWAP or trace, or even better. It's more bullish if you pull back into pre-market highs and bounce than if you bounce off of VWAP. NVIDIA, we can all want it to go. We can all hope it goes, but it's not going. So NVIDIA, and again, if you're looking for longs in NVIDIA, then where's the bid? I don't know, because I'm looking and I'm not seeing any bid on NVIDIA whatsoever. And the second I saw that, the first thing I did was went on over to AMD, which was absolutely pumping, and looking to see if it had gotten to the 140 level for a bit of a pullback, a little bit of a nasty move there, a reversal, I should say, in NVIDIA. Got to be very careful if you're watching out for that. MSTR still trying to push. It couldn't get above VWAP. It never got to 425. I was waiting for it to look at the pre-market highs for fade trade, and it just cannot seem to get there. And this is why you got to get away from Gap, everybody.
Yeah,
you can have a plan of action, but you've got to be able to get out of Dodge. If it doesn't follow your plan, then you shouldn't be in the trade. Reason to get in when it held that 25, but the second it didn't, what was my fear? That you could fill in the gap if it lost that level. Sorry, but I can't say it any other way. I probably can. But this is all the way back into 23. where the next spot would be. So it has to either get back above into this range, or you can find that 23 level as it's starting to get a little bit nasty. But SMCI is the one, if you're looking for longs, it's about the only thing that's following pattern for me that I was looking longs in. So as this pulls back into VWAP, my watch will be on this on the way back in.
Yeah, no, I'm still keeping eyes on this gap here as we take a little bit of a bid through that 24 as of right now. So I do want to stay slightly involved with this one. You know, I like that. Let me just throw in my stop real quick as of right now. Let's see. Oh, what? Why would that punch me out right away? That makes no sense. Okay, interesting. You know what? I'm going to get right back in and maybe take a little bit less here. I don't know what happened there, Neil. I think I put in my stop the wrong way.
I've done that before.
Yeah, it was like it punched me out right as soon as I got in. I was like, oh boy, didn't want that to happen. But okay, is that better? All right, that's better. I'm still in there now. All right, cool. What's the next trade? We'll let that one kind of cook. Let's see if that bid is finally caught, or do we get stopped out there on gap? It seems like we might be getting stopped out. Okay, there we go. All right, so that stops out right there at that day low. We are slowing down there. The selling has slowed down a little bit as of right now, holding 23.90 as the day low. So I'm gonna pack my patience. Shout out to Sharif for that one there, and wait for some of these tickers to kind of come in. Reddit still continuing to the downside as of right now, and NTAP catching a bit of a bid. Ross Stores actually caught a bid off of 146, trading at 149s as of right now. So oh boy, that one definitely looking interesting as of right now. What's up, Adara?
Nike is up here. We're basically at day's highs, at 2 1/3% with a nice volume pop off the open. This one got a positive rating here from Needham, initiating coverage with a buy rating and an $84 price target. So keep an eye on NKE this morning, getting some volume spikes, guys.
Good look on Nike. That was a great runner yesterday. We had some questions in the chat all about Nike. Apple's cresting to a double or triple top at the 230 level. Just to note to everybody, Bitcoin is at 97.6 IC. If it gets to 100,000 or adjacent to 100,000, we'll let you guys know. SMCI just did a bit of a pullback. I said that was going to be the next one I was looking at because in terms of looking at longs, that was the one that was still setting up that I liked. So better than a pullback into VWAP is a pullback into prior highs and a bounce. It bounced off 32s. I got quarters in there, and then sellers came right in at the 60 level. So 40s, and then I got some at the 50 level. It needs to make a fresh high or give me a consolidation. At this point, took a couple thirds out on a quick bounce play because quite frankly, I'm early. On a 3-minute chart, that's an early entry. Might have gotten to that price, but it's not a very clean entry as far as I'm concerned. So I'd rather get something consolidative, rounded bottom, or get a couple of green candles or at least one, and then try to add back into it. So I'll give it to this 32, but had to trim there because I feel like I got into it a little bit early. We were just about to talk about Apple and the 230 level. It already broke and starting to, it's back underneath. Okay, so Apple was above 230. Let's see if we can retake it. This is what I mean about it being a double top. And I actually believe I wrote this down. What is it? 230.25 needs to go because it broke and failed yesterday and only got to the teens. I think this needs to take out the quarters and then it would look a little bit better. And I know you're in gap, but if you have a plan of action.
Getting a little choppy, yeah.
It's getting choppy, but it's choppy right underneath the zone I'm looking at. 24 into 24.50. If it can break this back up, hold back into this zone, then it would confirm the long for me. So I'm only in SMCI. That one's cruising back to the upside, 32.5 as we speak. But just got to be patient with that gap trade, I think for sure. The futures are looking pretty good. So the longs overall are looking okay.
Yeah, you can see the futures are blasting to the upside. So we did make a bit of a decision there off of that 20,800. Nasdaq pushing up a much more, more aggressively to the upside there. We're almost knocking on the door of 6,000 here once again on the ES. Gap is a hold. Well, it did show up with a little bit of a bid there off of a dip below those 24s. So let's see if that can come in. Market tailwind definitely on our side right now. So let's see if the sellers are done for now on Gap as the buying kind of started showing itself a little bit there. A lot of mid prints going on here, Neil, as price slows down. That selling was coming in with a lot of orders hitting the bid, but we're doing more of a bid or a mid dance. right now, with a lot of these orders just filling in at the midpoint and maybe a little bit more on the ask, but that could change at any second. Right here, we're coming back into 24s as of right now, and the day low is 23.90, so it could be interesting there. Let's see if that day low gets taken out, or do we continue to the upside? Here comes NVIDIA to the downside again. No real bounce on that one there. Looking weak, so not really doing what the market is as of right now. So I'll continue to watch that going forward. MSTR, SMCI is actually running, dude. SMCI to the upside. Really I see that you're long. Nice trade on that one there. Breaking through those pre-market highs as of right now on MSTR. Yeah, NVIDIA to the downside, TSM to the downside as well. I got, TQs, we're already looking at those. Those are pushing up higher. Wow, the spider is blasting. The spider at 595.50s as of right now. Softy is blasting at 415, so opening pre-market highs running. Apple as well, very strong, 229s. Did Tesla get to that 336? Not yet. It's at 340 right now. It's trading pretty much flat there off the open there. I like that one. Who do you think you are? I am.
Pete Weber. Let's go.
Amazon pretty much sideways as well off the open. So nothing too crazy, man.
Only an old man like me is going to know a Pete Weber reference in there. I wouldn't expect you to know that. The dude, he's actually like apparently one of the greatest bowlers of all time. Of all time. So, yeah, there you go. We'll talk about it a little bit later. But we have to go to the desk with ADR.
We did get these S&P numbers. So S&P Global Composite PMI data, this is the flash print for November. Bit higher here than expected, 55.3 versus 54.3 expected, and the previous print of 54.1. For the manufacturing PMI data, basically in line with expectations here, 48.8, so that's exactly in line with the consensus, slightly lower than the forecast of 49.2. We also got a higher than expected print for the services PMI flash, so 57 versus consensus of 55.2, forecast of 55.1. So composite and services higher than expected. Global manufacturing more or less in line with expectations. At 10 a.m., we're going to be getting the Michigan consumer sentiment data, but the Q is continuing to push higher here, up about 0.2% right now, guys.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much there, Adara. Looking over, like this, NVIDIA is still continuing its downward trend. So I basically was saying if it loses a pre-market low, I'm supposed to wait for 143 bucks. It's at 144. So yesterday, it was a clean breakout trade initially, and then you had to wait. Like 45 gave you a good dip, and then you were waiting for the 140 level. For me, it's the 143 at this point. If we don't get that, then I do not want to be fighting it. It's starting to look a little bit weak here. If we are going to continue downtrend, there's about to be a retest, I think, of VWAP and resistance on AMD here. So if we lose the bid, and the market is flying right now, and looking strong. If you lose the bid, I think AMD can continue, but it's strength in the market. And a lot of it, I mean, you've got Apple, which was going and now has lost the 230 level. I'm starting to think about the reversion, which has me eyeballs on that AMD. And for anybody asking about Pinduoduo, I wanted short off 104. Pinduoduo opened up and just flushed right to 100 bucks. So there was no short off 104, at least not for myself. So the short was good. There was no chance I was ever going to have it, at least not at those prices. I'm pretty close to, I might have missed that dip again on SMICI or SMCI. I don't want to call it SMCI. SMCI. It's continuing to go higher. Looks like it's going to press that 33 level. I still want to be able to buy a dip in here. But if we zoom it out, when we were talking about this on the 15-minute chart last week, or yesterday, it wasn't even last week, well, last week as well. You know, one of the things that I was looking at was this gap fill to here, which is 33. Like, that's the close on the dump day. So it's an obvious level that if it fails, I'm expecting pullback into VWAP, generally speaking. So a fail of the 33, and my style, again, it is what it is, but it's what led me to be green yesterday, is sticking to my plan. If it gets to that resistance spot and does a revert, I get out and wait for VWAP. I don't have to short the reversion, but I do need to get out and then wait for the VWAP reversion as if I was short. So that's going to be the plan of action for me on this SMCI play, which so far is so good. No complaints on it. And still looking for some kind of a test a little bit lower on NVIDIA before I try the long. Market's up and it's down, so I don't want to fight it, at least not yet.
Yeah, no, I got stopped out of that gap there. That was a nasty little drop. I think I slipped like 10 pennies on that flush down. Absolutely crazy, but we're starting to slow down a little bit there. I'm willing to take a couple more stabs at this and then leave it alone if the bid really isn't going to catch. But you can see the market's pretty strong here as of right now, continuing to push even higher here on both the ES and the Nasdaq, and it seems like Gap not really feeling that kind of pressure right there. So we were looking at that short float as well on this name. We did come back into oh boy, so we're trading back above 24s right here. So let's see. Now I'm looking for a break of trend, right? So we've been clearly trending down off of the open here. Let's pull up another chart so we can take a look at it a little bit cleaner right there. We've been trending down off of the open there. Looking at a 5-minute chart, you can see the trend a little bit nicer as well. Straight bars to the downside there. Not really breaking anything too crazy just yet. So you know what? I'm going to be patient. I got a little aggressive on the initial hold, and that's fine. But now I'm going to be a little bit less aggressive and wait for that trend to actually break. And if and when that trend breaks, I'm more than willing to get a little bit more aggressive with that confirmation here on Gap. Oh boy, indeed. All
right, this
nice trade
changed.
On SMCI.
Tape just changed on this.
SMCI?
Well, we'll see. But obviously a pretty sharp trend. I'm just going to quickly try to explain as fast as I can here. We're looking at that 33 area. I said if it failed at that price, that was a bit of a gap fill into a prior close. It just got above. Now, I was trailing it the entire way. At one point, it was at 32.80 in here. Then I moved it to 33. When it broke the 33.50, I moved the trail up underneath that 40 level and looking for the mean revert at this particular point. It's at the spot. And again, if I was flat and looking short, then this is where I would be looking for the short. Now, I said before, it's a get out of the long situation because it's at that level, not necessarily that I would jump short. So I'm now out of it at that 33.25 mark to grab the buck, and I'm looking for the pullback potentially into VWAP, maybe into a prior high. So that's the play on SMCI, kind of get in, get out. We did miss the initial dip. That's a disappointment. I did want to at least show you guys Pinduo Duo. So yes, I was looking for a pop and fade. I didn't want this short like yesterday. But what happened yesterday was this in Pinduo Duo at the open. Like it jumped up into resistance and gave you the short. Today, it just felt like an absolute rock. So I was just trying to play what happened yesterday and see if I could do it twice. Unfortunately, we ended up missing that short. Thankfully, we were able to get some SMCI there. And if it gives me the dip, I can patiently wait for the next trade. Patiently wait for that one to set up. We can wait for the next one. Adara?
Boeing really strong here off the open, up about 2%, near day's highs around 9 a.m. So just about half an hour before the open, the company announced it secured this $2.38 billion U.S. Air Force deal. So this is expansion of their previous deal for these 46A tankers. So Boeing Air Force deal, bringing this one nicely to the upside off the open, guys.
Okay.
Boeing can have good news. All right, you guys are catch me taking allergy medication.
Joking.
Boeing is allowed to have good news, Obi.
I mean, they're allowed to do whatever they want. But, I mean, clearly they have been. So,
they have been flying.
They've been, yeah. They've been doing whatever they want. I think that's a good place, a good way to put it there. You know, started off the year with some parts of the fuselage falling off and some questionable inquiries and people going missing as well. So, but anyways, not going to talk about that. Boeing, nice little move off of the open there. Nice little 143 lows I'm seeing from the pre-market, trading at 146 or at a high. It went to a high of 146.30s right there on Boeing. But you can see nothing too crazy as yesterday. We're just reverting a bit of yesterday's move there. Yesterday, that strong flush pretty much giving us the same range, 146 highs all the way down to 141s actually at the day lows, but consolidations coming in right in and around that opening price on the day today on Boeing. So interesting stuff. Are you guys trading Boeing? Let us know in the chat. Moderna saying James Choi. Okay, let's take a quick look at mRNA here. Okay, so yeah, nice strong push off of the open here on Moderna, 37.80 low, trading at 39.60s. Nice little push now, looking distinctly different than what we've been seeing over the past couple of days with some of these biotech names selling off here. So look at that bid on Pfizer as well. So this bid coming in real nice, prior day high breaking at 25.21. We're catching a bit of a pullback. Oh boy, Neil, take a look at that. Nice little pull up, and then now we're looking for a potential reversion here on some of these biotechs, maybe with that first sign of selling coming in here. What's that other one? BNTX, I think it was. Yeah, so this was the other one. Nice little volatile name in the same kind of sector. We know that Lilly as well.
SMCI is
not
now
really
going.
that. SMCI is still going. Okay.
I'm not
I guess I'm not trading the right ticket right now.
15%. You got it. So I got to show Apple because that's starting to set up. But SMCI, well, it's still going. 34 now on SMCI, so that breakaway from 30.5 has now given you, I mean, obviously, it's given you 15 points. I didn't have it until it was back in here, the first available dip. Like, essentially, like, if I'm not in it, I'm just waiting for the first dip candle. That's what we're going to look for again. If it gives us another dip, that's what we're going to go for. You're at VWAP right now on Apple on a pullback. The market continuing to give it back a little bit here, so I want to see that hold on to VWAP. The good news is NVIDIA is already bouncing. The bad news is it didn't get down toward that one, close enough to that 143. But there is a nice bounce starting to form here on NVIDIA. So it's starting to break that trend. I needed to close above trend. If it can do that, give me the consolidation. I don't want to rush into any entries or anything like that. Like, it's going to close above this 144. Look for it to hold in that range or just make a higher low and then we can get into it. MSTR is continuing to, I thought there'd be more volatility in MSTR. 15 bucks is a lot, but compared to yesterday, it's nothing. It is just bouncing off 400 and bouncing in front of 415, 416, and range bound on MSTR. If it breaks out of this range, probably should be agnostic into which direction it breaks out of the range and just want to follow it.
Yeah.
That's going to be my approach. So you can see the range. It's kind of hard to see, but it's like a 400 down here, and it's about a 415. If it starts to accelerate in either direction out of that range, I think it's going to be more of a follow than anything else. But SMCI, NVIDIA, it's got to be able to stick to the plan. I have gap up, but after, oh no, it's a New York stock. All right, I'm just going to do this while that loads. But after we got out of it, when it lost that bid, I was waiting for a rounded bottom and a trend break. And I think that's what's starting to happen. Like, let it set up. Well, the black chart's not going to have a good trend line, is it? After it's set up, it'd be a little bit harder to see on the black chart. It's now closing above that trend line. The 24 starting to look a little bit better with gap. So I want to be getting back into this. But we did slap the L on it, made up for it with SMCI. But our first trade didn't work out. Now you're getting a bit of a trend break here on gap after that close. So the 24 is starting to look good. Probably not going to get exactly 24. So yeah, I'll just get it. You just saw me get in at 05.
Yeah, no, I like that. And Bears versus Bulls asking us to take a look at some super chats that we may have missed, Neil. So there's one for you, but I'll cover D. Westermeyer here. Thank you for this super chat. Nicole Harris as well. And Vassal, I think we covered that one a little bit earlier. The pre-market, we took a look at gap, right? So Nicole Harris saying, good morning, Neil. Can you look at SKK from yesterday with us, please? Thank you for the super chat. Neil, we'll get to that just in a minute. D. Westermeyer, what's up, man? Watchlist LIFW, long at $2. Thoughts? So LIFW, we can take a quick look at that one right after we get back from Madeira.
This part of the show is brought to you by Military Metals. Donald J. Trump, during his first presidency, emphasized that a strong America must not depend on foreign adversaries for critical minerals essential to our nation's economic and military strength in the 21st century. Aligning with this vision, Military Metals is emerging as a global powerhouse in the antimony space, crucial for defense and military applications. With past producing assets in the US, Canada, and Europe, Military Metals is poised to secure these vital resources domestically. Don't wait too long because this story is heating up fast.
All right, thank you
very much. Right
yeah.
So I want to make sure we get to this SKK,
yes.
And it might be a little bit late for this, and apologies. Obviously, when the opening rush is going on and you're trading, you want to focus on the stocks that you're looking at. So, making sure that we got into SMCI and then we're able to look for another opportunity if we can get it. So what I do like about it after it's already pulled back, because like I said, it's already pulled back. What I do like about it is it just held on to prior lows. Now remember, the stock went from $11 to like underneath a penny stock. So it's short sell restricted because it was down a bajillion%. So generally speaking, I like mean revert type trades, but I think you already missed it because it went off the open. There's tremendous risk in being long this, so only trade it with stops. That said, I'd be looking for mean reversion type trades if it can. Tight stops, like The example I want to use here is just essentially, I'm already in gap, so it's easy to say. Break the trend, which happened right about here. The trend line's gone. I didn't save it, sorry. So we go long in here and give it to the prior low. So I have an entry based on a plan of action when it started to curl and make a higher low, and I've got a defined out. So if you're fighting the trend, you have yourself a defined out there. This market is getting right back into those highs. NVIDIA, which I don't want to ignore, everybody, it's now starting to pull back off the 145, needs to hold this 144, put in a higher low, and then we can confirm that this is a decent bounce. And I still am watching this MSTR. Haven't made a trade on it yet. The consolidation on MSTR here is, it's just weird. There's no chance it's just gonna trade a $15 range for the whole day. It's breaking this range, and when it breaks this range, I want in, and I don't care which direction it is. So I have eyeballs on this. I feel like it's gonna happen anytime now, but just gotta focus on it.
Yeah, no, D. Westermeyer, LIFW, we can take a look at that one now. So I did pull it up right here on my chart. You said long at $2. Thoughts? I mean, I didn't really have this one on watch coming into the open here, but yeah, I guess they had a split recently, 18th of November. They had a split. Doesn't really do too much volume here. Average volume 30-day I have at 1.2 million. Did about 21 or doing about 21 million today so far, 21 and a half. On the day, but a nice little pullback off of that. I do not know what the catalyst here. 2 million litigation settlement. So it seems like it's a small cap mover there. Shares float 578. So that float is really, really small. Less than 1 million shares available to trade. So definitely giving opportunity for float getting cornered, a little bit more easily manipulated as well. But it's been fading nicely off of some of those highs in the pre-market right there. So that's all I got on here. Nice little consolidation lows here at that 160. So don't really have too much else on that. But as of right now, we're going to see what's happening now with ADR.
Okay, there wasn't.
We just got those Michigan consumer sentiment numbers coming through. So the Michigan consumer sentiment print, this is going to be the final for November, lower than expected, 71.8 versus consensus of 73.7, forecast of 73. Then we have the 5-year inflation expectations, higher than expected, 3.2% versus 3.1% expected and previous. Then we get a inline inflation's expectation for 1 year, so 2.6%. For the Michigan consumer expectations, we're a little bit lower than expected, also lower than expected for current conditions. So just to recap those numbers, lower than expected consumer sentiment print for November, higher than expected 5-year inflation expectations, and inline 1-year inflation expectations. Market initially pulled down all the way to the bottom of this kind of range here, that 504.60 on the Qs. Now we're pushing back up. So interesting look here. Qs pretty range bound. Also range bound, as Neil mentioned here, is MSTR. Lots of news here for MicroStrategies. In case you missed it yesterday, right after the open, we did have Andrew Left and Citron Research posting that they actually had begun a short position in the company as a Bitcoin hedge. Then right after the close, the company announces it's completed a $3 billion offering for these 0% convertible senior notes. They raised $2.97 billion through this, and they're going to use that money in part to get some more Bitcoin. So good look for MSTR. Then we have GOOGL. This is another day two kind of move. This is also a little bit range bound right now, but down about 1%. In addition to some GOJ news throughout the day yesterday, we also had the information reporting right at the close that OpenAI, so competitor there of Google, in addition to having some of their search features, they're actually looking to have their own web browser reportedly. So GOOGL on watch. Once again, back to you guys.
Thank you for that. Yeah,
Gap couldn't hold on to the low of the day there. So if you have an entry, as I said before, right, you've got to make sure you stick to your rules. Load. All right. Well, that one broke. It broke the low. Trust me when I tell you, it absolutely broke that low. So I had to get out of it. That's where the stop is going to be. We're going to adhere to it. Carvana is absolutely flying, but I can tell you, it's Tesla that I think might be catching a few people off guard here. Tesla, support down here at 335 would have been the jam, but you're not getting it. Tesla looks like it wants to just eschew all of that and break out the top. The other thing that's happening is MicroStrategy made another run at that low, and I know it's not doing a lot, but again, I'm of the mind that there's almost no chance that it's going to continue this consolidation. So I'm now waiting for this breakdown under 400, or if it just wants to break out 420. You could, I mean, in theory, you could just bracket order that, I suppose, or I mean, we can just do it with a couple of 2-stop orders, but you could bracket to say either way it breaks, I want to jump into it. But yeah, it just looks like MicroStrategy is gearing up to do something wild. I want to make sure we take a shot at that break. Gap, just to show you, this should load now. Yeah, took out the low, I'm out. If it tries to fill in more, you've just got to wait for it. It's just going to the downside at this point, and it's losing all support. This market is headed right back in. Nvidia is headed right back down to the lows. I never got in on AMD because it just never really showed the weakness that I wanted. It's still trending up, but now you've got a decent formation setting up on AMD, where you've got a wick high, you've got a lower high, so suddenly it's at least giving you some kind of an entry if it can get back into the high 138 level. It was a little bit too strong to just fight it and didn't have a supreme plan for it at that price. It was more the 140 and above that we're looking at. So I want to short this one off the 138.8 and still MicroStrategy. Come on, make the break. There's no chance. We're not going to hold a $15 range on MicroStrategy all day. It just won't happen.
Yeah, no, I'm not really seeing too much else. I think that that MSTR definitely one to be patient and watch out for as well. I have Misty up here again. We talked about some of those ETFs coming in, so it is kind of consolidating pretty tightly here in and around that 35. So I am kind of watching that pretty closely to see what that'll bring us, and Gap as well, attempting a couple longs here as the price ticks a little bit lower. I don't know. Was it Walmart? Walmart did a bit of a push there. Target dropped down pretty aggressively off the open there. Okay, here we go. Getting a little bit of a bid as of right now. Let's see if we follow through. I'm going to be more patient. And we were talking about this a little bit yesterday, being, again, kind of to reiterate a saying that Neil often says is you got to miss the trade in order to make the trade.
Be willing to miss the trade
in order to make the trade. Is something that I've heard Neil say many times, and I'm realizing that as well. I'm just like, okay, well, you know, you can get chopped up a bunch of times, kind of paying to try and find the turn when it hasn't really ticked off all the boxes for a turn. But again, maybe if you're willing to get a worse price and less size, giving it that risk that's warranted, more easier on the mental as well. And it seems like if the bid breaks, if the bid kind of steps in and breaks into the ask and breaks the trend, I do want to get involved with Gap here. What's going on, Adara?
Just keep an eye on Meta here. This is a bit of a confusingly worded headline here circulating around social media, but it is worth noting. Apparently, we have the U.S. Supreme Court dismissing this case. The case apparently involves an attempt by Facebook, which of course is a subsidiary or owned by Meta here. I guess Facebook was attempting to avoid a securities fraud lawsuit by its shareholders. That case has been dismissed by the Supreme Court. Now, based on the wording, I can't tell if the Supreme Court has dismissed Meta's attempt to avoid this case or the case entirely. If I see any other information, I will let you know. This headline has been circulating around social media, guys.
Thank you very much, Adair. And like you said, be willing to miss the trade to make the trade. SMCI is now starting to set up again. It didn't really consolidate off VWAP, but we're looking for the next available dip on SMCI. At the open, it might just take one bar, but as you get a little bit later on in the session, it's past 10 o'clock now. You had this dip underneath 33, which was tricky to get in unless you're just literally sitting on the bid. Then it did a rejection underneath 33 again, and then back above the quarters. I missed the quarters and ended up chasing the 37. So I end up in a position where if I'm chasing it a little bit, I'll just take like a third and then wait for it to actually confirm and give me something tighter to that 33 level. Still eyeballing MSTR, which is now threatening to break out the top. And I'm, like I said, ambiguous about which direction MSTR wants to break. And here comes Tesla. Tesla, it seems to want it. It's going to make this play. 345, that's the resistance. I thought 335 was a long on Tesla. It was a low probability that we were going to get there. It's a Friday, so those $5 levels I love on Tesla, that's now setting it up for a 345 break. And it is what it is. Sometimes you just don't get the dip buy. And you have to look at the breakout trade, and you grit your teeth, and you just sort of get the bad price. Because overall, everyone always wants to get the best price. You know, and the lower price on a dip buy is always going to be sexier than buying a breakout trade because, you know, obviously you have to stare at it and watch it go $7 before you're even getting into it. But it's a scalp trade into the high if it breaks at the 345 level, scalp into the high at 347. Still eyeballing MSTR. We're in SMCI backing alongside, and Tesla screaming up, but not so much NVIDIA. NVIDIA is still weak, which leads me to wanting to short either, well, AMD is the play if we can get it. Tesla could be next, though.
Yeah, so again, that MSTR is winding up quite nicely. Market's finally taking a little bit of a pullback here, aggressively coming right back into some of those opening prices here. You can see on the NASDAQ and the ES as well. So that's strength with a bit of a reversion coming in as of right now. Yeah, nothing too crazy, man. I'm not really seeing it too much. A lot of pullbacks happening now. Amazon printing some fresh lows as well. Tesla is actually at its highs. NVIDIA printing some fresh lows. Apple taking a bit of a pullback. Alphabet as well. Softy recovering a lot of it as well. And then we saw the Spider was pretty strong off of the open. That's recovered about 50% of its move as of right now as well. Bitcoin trading at 97.9s. So that Bitcoin taking a bit of a pullback as well. So AMD pullback. Wow, look at Intel flushing aggressively to the downside, Neil. That's pretty wild there. Right here, Intel right here on this screen right here, Intel. So yeah, no, I'm just I'm looking at a lot of those TQs about to go green to red on the day. Oh boy, Neil. We're getting some selling coming into the market. So that bid off of the open, not really following through. And I kind of flipped bias, man. I was like, all right, well, if the gap long is not going to work and we're holding a lot of these trends,
well, we're getting acceleration.
The downside, maybe I want to take a stab at the short. I did get stopped out a bunch of times on the long, basically telling me that clearly buyers are not in charge. So what do I want to do? Maybe I want to get a little short to see and really feel when and if those buyers come in. Because if I'm short, oh boy, let me tell you, I'll definitely feel those buyers coming in a little bit more than if I was long there. We got a super chat here by Rohit Sharma saying, Neil, people selling options on Gap? I don't know, man. I think, I don't know, Neil can probably answer that question a little bit better, but I'm sure there's some transactions on options going on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sitting here looking at the chain myself. Like, let's be real, as an equity trader, that's definitely not my thing. I know Joe would probably be able to, he'd be live probably looking at it if he was trading it, and Joe on the midday, of course. But obviously, with this level of volatility, I'm sure it is absolutely going wild. That said, it is starting to consolidate. I'm out of it because it violated any of the levels that I wanted. So, of course, I'm going to be red on it because we were trying to go long. It tried to hold this, and we got out. It's still trending down. I feel like it's headed at least for this gap fill at 23. Like I said, if it was either going to hold the range I wanted, setting up a trade I wanted, or we have to wait for it to pull the entire gap in. If you're not short, it is what it is, and you got to move on to the next. But there was just acceleration to the downside. I'm going to show you what happened in AMD. Not that I'm in it, because this is what happened at AMD. It's just like yesterday. Just like yesterday, when I'm eyeballing NVIDIA and it makes the breakdown, I'm trying to grab that even dollar break on AMD when it loses support, there's just nothing there. So no fill for me. The problem is, whatever, like I'm right underneath 88, so I'm not going to get a fill. But if it pops back up, I do still want to be short this. Probably could have been more aggressive. Being patient is what worked the best for me yesterday. Now we just got to wait for the next available pop on AMD. What's weird, however, is MicroStrategy is now holding higher lows. So while the market falls, the weakest stock in the world yesterday, probably, don't at me if there was something weaker, is starting to look a little bit strong. Everything else is starting to come back in. And I'm eyeballing this because I think it's going to break out any second. Even MSTR, which we were just long on that last dip, it just lost higher low support. So we're long here with that stop, and now we're out of it. We got to see what level can hold next. The market's bleeding a little bit. We'll let it set back up. But the only thing I'm watching that I had a bull case on outside of Tesla would be MSTR trying to break out this high. So again, it's looking like the market is looking a little bit weak, so you got to be a little bit careful here. Tesla looking okay, but MicroStrategy still in this tight range. I can't believe it's doing this. If you came in thinking MicroStrategy was going to be the one, it's a disappointment. Unfortunately, when you make plans, you're looking at the stocks that you think are going to give you the moves. And if this one's not going to go yet, I still want to give it a chance. I can't imagine it's having a $100 plus range and going to continue to do this nothing burger here Friday.
Yeah, this is some aggressive selling in now, selling coming in now. You can see the Nasdaq trading significantly lower now. Pretty much wiped that first opening range action there that did push up past that 20,800, pulling right back in. So we're getting a little bit of buying, bringing us back in, but that selling was quite aggressive, pushing us all the way back down there to some of those range lows, and we're getting a bit of a bounce there on the ES as well. So maybe this is where the bid potentially comes in, Neil. So again, we've got to pack our patience for that one. Gap still in this one right now, still slowing down. It's knocking on the door of that day low. Still holding a bit of that downtrend, even though we were starting to curl a little bit here. You can see that the VWAP is still kind of in a strong downtrend. No real curl on that one just yet. MSTR, I mean, I'm watching Misty, like I pointed out earlier, still holding well within range while the market is doing some craziness there. NVIDIA fresh lows, 4270s incoming on NVIDIA, so got to be patient for that one. Excuse me, so to see if that can bring us something. SMCI though, rather doing well, holding its highs as well. So holding that VWAP. TSM to the downside. AMD, oh boy, wiping out pretty much everything that it has as well. And TAP, man, that's been a nice downtrend off of the open. So NTAP coming in with that strong selling off of the open there. So it seems like some of these things are pretty directional, some of them not so much. Trading a little bit sideways here on a few of these names like MSTR. Again, a lot of volume, a lot of interest that came in yesterday on MSTR, and then today we're not really doing much off of the open. Bit of a consolidation incoming as of right now. So I'll be patient. Again, nothing too crazy. Took a couple hits on Gap, still kind of holding on to this short as of right now, just to see if that bid really does come in there. Still trading below those 24s, trading below VWAP and anchored as of right now on Gap. So we'll be patient. We'll watch this one to kind of see what it has in store for us. But other than that, I'm not really seeing too many opportunities on my part just yet, Neil. So let us know in the chat what you guys are trading. What are you guys involved with on the day today? I'm not really seeing too much that really vibes with me as of right now, but something could always show up later on in the day or going into the midday as well. Reddit was something we were looking at earlier today as well. Now Reddit not really doing too much as of right now. Let's go to Reddit right now. So you can see a bit of a pullback off of that 149 high a day, trading at 145.95s right now, 146s. Day low at 143.29. So interesting stuff on that one there. Sellers coming in aggressively once again here on Gap. What's up, Adara?
Keep an eye here on TGT after trading pretty listlessly, kind of in this pretty choppy range. Basically, as of day one earnings, so opening on the 20th, as to now, we pretty flat. Now we're getting a little bit of a pop of about 3% for TGT. No news, near day's highs. It's worth noting too, there weren't any positive analyst notes to speak for this name either. Looked through, and yesterday we had a slew of notes, all negative or price target decreases. So TGT a bit weak, guys. Or a bit strong here today after that weakness, guys.
Yeah, Target holding on to some strength. So just before we get into a couple of things that are happening here, NVIDIA did just make it look. We said we'd wait for 143, right? Like if it couldn't make the break, couldn't hold the pre-market lows, which it could not, we'd wait for the 143 level. So there's the mean reversion off of 143. I actually got 01s back through because every now and then you get a fill when it breaks at even dollars and you get a great fill. But as we get back up, remember, the last pop at 44 went less than $1 and then failed at VWAP. So first things first, scalp to prior resistance, gets them out in front of 144, gets them out in front of VWAP. And then as it gets from level to level, tighten up to stop. So before I liked it at the low, obviously going to break back up. Now the prior bar close, double closes, was at 142.90. So now that it's hit first target, I can tighten this one up, and my stop is going to be about 15 cents worth of risk. So you get that initial push up, stop goes from under here, risking 40 cents, to now all of a sudden in the money. It can't turn into a red trade for us there. So want to respect that. The other thing, oh yeah, MSTR just happened as well. So,
ooh, there we go, yeah.
MSTR just broke 420 because obviously 420 would be the range top. It is what it is. We'll see. I just didn't feel like MSTR was going to hold this range forever. Obviously, this is a wide one. you know what, it's got that 425. Now that I think about it, it's got that 425 level that I should be respecting. And we did say that this morning. So you know what? If it cannot hold on 418, I should probably jump out of this and wait for it to show confirmation. But we're long it to the upside and have a bit of a tighter stop because I remember the 425 level. I'm going to make sure I have an offer in front of 425 as well. Let's respect our prior plan, even though it's starting to go. The other thing we got to talk about here is the stock trading competition is here for Trade the Pool. So are you ready to put your trading skills to the test? So join us for Trade the Pool and Trader TV stock trading comp. We've got some exciting prizes lined up, including a massive $160,000 extra buying power evaluation for first place. The first 20 places will win. Competition kicks off December 2nd, runs through December the 6th. Winners announced on the 9th. This competition is your opportunity to push your limits and see how far your skills can take you. Mark your calendars. Make sure you do not miss. Click the link in the description, scan the QR code below, and take part in this potential opportunity here. I think it's a fun one. Just see how you do, see how you stack up. So every now and then, you get an idea, but then I remember my bigger plan. So you guys all heard me say, whichever direction it breaks out of the range, I want MSTR. That said, I remembered my original plan before observing this, which was pop and fade 425. Well, if I still thought that was big resistance, I'm punching long in overhead resistance, and you saw me in real time decide instead of usually giving it to back here, risk 5, the stock could go $40, $50, so $5 risk shouldn't matter. But no, go tight stop risk because it's into overhead resistance, and then reevaluate if it's still trending to the upside. So take a small hit to be able to work into something else that makes a little bit more sense. Sometimes you just got to be able to do that. Still in NVIDIA, I want the next push into 144, and I'm going to get back over to SMCI when we come back from ADRs.
Keep an eye on Worksport here. WKSP, the company, just announced they're actually going to be increasing their production capacity as part of their goal to have $1 million here in monthly online sales. So 100% growth for that metric of their business. How they're going to increase this production is they're looking to expand their workforce and also add a second shift to increase this production capacity. So WKSP up about almost 7% here on Watch, guys.
So I just want to, first of all, thank you, AJ Fiorenza there. I hope you're learning a lot. The idea is to be able to learn from everybody in your trading community. That's what you want to be able to do. And remember, we were talking about the original plan on MSTR. This is where it came from, and why when I was zoomed in, I was like, no, it's in overhead resistance. Why am I doing this? Just put a tight stop on it. The break could still go. It could have worked. But zoom out. Original plan, prior low 425, afternoon resistance 425, pre-market resistance 425. I'm punching into that. And that's the reason you can just either, if I wasn't in it, I could have reevaluated and maybe not even taken the trade. But the other thing you can do is just take a paper cut on it instead of getting, oh, I'm in the trade, let's just try to make it work. That's not going to be the case there for MSTR. So it's just a little bit in the wild. I don't generally like punching a breakout into overhead resistance. I think if it's trending up, you'd rather buy dips so that you're long going into it. That would have been the idea if NVIDIA had approached 150 today. Tesla is giving the same vibes, although this feels a little bit stronger, and I believe the 345 gives you ample opportunity to get a push into 47 with a reasonable stop level there. So Tesla is still looking okay. The only thing we're in is that NVIDIA trade. It's already pulling back. Remember, I've tightened the stop here because it got to first level. The stop has been tightened because it's trending down, and that's the way I like to roll. If you saw me trading NVIDIA yesterday, everything was tight stops and working big. So it ended up being my best stock. Today, it's tight stop, but then working small. And if you're fighting the trend, that's how it's got to be. You're just going to bleed all day long. Marcelo's saying peep Uber. I want to throw it back to Uber for a second, but I haven't looked at Uber today. But I will give it a look. I know Mr. Katina bought some Uber yesterday.
Nice. Okay, so before that, we're just going to see what's going on in small cap world with ADRs. What's up?
My bad.
IWM kind of chopping around here near day's highs, up more than 1% as the Russell 2000 continuing its streak of strength after we got this double bottom around Tuesday. So great look for that Russell. Also great look for a lot of small caps. There are tons to talk about. I know I saw QBTS and QUBT trying to run again as well. LIFW was on watch. But we have 3 other ones for you to check out, including Replimune, REPL. This one has about a 20% short float. It's a bit of a larger market cap, around $1 billion. With this company announcing here that they've received breakthrough therapy designation for their melanoma treatment. So good look here for REPL with a positive FDA catalyst. Then we have Sunshine Biopharma. This is another biotech-related name here. One of their subsidiaries, Nora Pharma, announced that they've launched this generic drug here called Urosodiol. This drug is also related to liver diseases. So liver disease news for a subsidiary of SPCE. It's worth noting this one has about a 16% short float, a 2 million share float, and a $5 million market cap. So small market cap and float and large short float for SBFM. And last but not least, Paladine AI, PDYN. This one near day's highs. It's actually an old catalyst. This is from Wednesday, so potential day 3 move for PDYN, announcing here that it's expanding this partnership with Red Cat with regards to drones. So drone AI related catalysts here for PDYM. It's just a 13 million share float, guys.
All right, yeah, so there's definitely some things moving in this market, but it seems like it's just small caps right there. A lot of these large caps kind of tight in their range. Maybe some of them selling off in the Mag 7 as well. But I'm looking at the spider right now, Neil, and pretty much sideways in a range here. So this is the spider chart as of right now, looking very similar, obviously, to the ES right here, but still within this opening range, well within this opening range as of right now, trading a little sideways on the day, nothing too crazy. We got that dip down on Gap, but Gap as of right now is holding its day low and also kind of sandwiched in between its, I guess, VWAP and some moving average as well, making lower highs and lower lows, kind of slowing down. That selling did slow down, and we kind of talk about participants going from actively selling to passively selling. So it seems like, well, the bid isn't really there just yet. We're holding 23 halves as of right now with a low of 23.46, but making a bit of a incremental fade into it. We can see that sellers were aggressive off of the open there. Now kind of slowing down, but the overall trend is still to the downside here. I'm looking at the 15-minute chart as well. We've been incrementally making some lower lows and lower highs as well. So I'm looking for that day low to break down a little bit, to look for a further move. And yeah, I wanted to get long on Gap today, but this is something I've been definitely getting better at, Neil. You remember
get away from
I would
it,
be like, you either look away from it or you get with the trend. You know how sometimes I struggle with getting with the trend. Now there's multitudes of reasons as to maybe why. But again, at the end of the day, it's just that for me, it might just be a bit of an ego. Like I had an idea for the long, and if I'm getting stubborn on the long side and being like, okay, no, I have to force this long, it's clearly telling me, the price action is telling me there's no real bid. I'm looking for the bid. It's not there. Yeah. The chart is telling me that we're trending down. We're making lower lows and lower highs. We're using indicators to our advantage. We're holding below VWAP. We're holding moving averages. We can see that every time we do bid up, that bid is kind of getting absorbed, and we can't get as high every time we do bid up. We're making lower highs. So it's like, okay, if you're seeing that, great, you have an idea to get long, but it's telling you everything you need to see to not get long. So it's not giving me everything for that, but it is showing me that sellers are definitely in charge. There goes 49s right now. I don't know if we clipped the day lows there, but that was an aggressive flush. You can see that below the bids and a strong red flush coming in on Gap, as again, potentially filling the gap back down to the downside and giving back a lot of these or the gains that we got off of the earnings report right here. So this is what Gap is up to right now. Now, again, we take a look at Target as well. Target is bidding to the upside, but on earnings day one, this was absolutely beautiful here. I took this trade here off of the open, aggressive selling coming off of the open there. Walmart as well. Walmart on earnings day one, you can see what it did. We attempted to push towards its highs. We attempted to break some fresh highs, but by the end of the day, we sold off pretty aggressively all the way back down. So that's something I do want to note here as what some of these retail names have been doing. And yeah, Gap on the day today looking distinctly different from its counterparts here. Walmart and Target catching a bit of a bid here. And I think Adara pointed out that some other names that may be moving in step with this would be Nordstrom. Nordstrom is pushing to the upside here, looking similar again to that of Walmart and Target, and Macy's as well. Can't forget about Macy's. What's Macy's up to? Macy's on the upside. So Gap is definitely doing its own thing, trading much lower now, Neil. Oh boy. We're at 23.36s. I'm glad I got short. I'm glad I'm trading with the trend now. Spider, though, coming back all the way back.
That's what you have to do. I mean, ultimately, first of all, you just have to have an execution plan. Like, have a plan of action first and stick to it, but then also be willing to, change it up. Like, I'm going to show you an MSTR, which would have been a disaster if I had just gotten stubborn with that trade. But NVIDIA, remember what we were saying, it got to that first level, and we waited for it. And waited. Look, the only trade we put on NVIDIA waiting for the dip by long was the 143. So the 143 and 140. So it did the dip off 143. We grabbed it. First resistance holds. So we took some out first try, second try, same wick, same result. We take more out, and then we tighten our stop to just under break even, so we can't be red on the stock. You're fighting the trend, have a plan of action, and make sure you don't lose on it, and do the best that you can. Because that's the only move it gave you. It gave you 50 pennies. That's it. So you can't lose $1 on it, because that's all it's given you on that move. Maybe it sets something up later. The other thing is that MSTR that looked like it was going to be a good break, kind of sniffed it out. And now you're going right back into VWAP. So it's still channel up. I think that looks okay. But I wanted to make sure we got to the super chat in here. All right, I'll just go in here. Funding. Appreciate you, SP Williams. Enough respect to you. Do you think Sava can squeeze? Okay, short answer, any stock.
Yes.
Short answer is any stock can squeeze. That's what is pretty much obvious. It's a 43% short float on Cassava Sciences. So the short answer is, of course, it's possible that it could squeeze. However, this is what Sava is doing. The setup that I look for on a stock which is down 14 points is a mean reversion trade, which I think is already in the midst of happening, because this is what it would look like. That's the mean reversion trade. So I would be in it and then out, and now it's doing a rounded bottom. So it would be something like, okay, now that it's held 27, I'd probably have tried it in here with a stop to the low of the day. But it's not screaming. Usually you want that mean reversion to be screaming back up when it starts going, and both of those got faded pretty quickly. So if I was going to mean revert it, I'd already be in that trade, and I wouldn't be chasing it here, at least not for my trading strategy. It's 10:30. Bitcoin is trying, but we still haven't broken 100,000. What else is going on in the world of crypto, Adara?
Not to veer, we will look at Bitcoin in just a minute, but before we do that, I thought it'd be interesting to talk about a story we didn't really mention much. It wasn't our watch list this morning, but DJT making another step into the world of crypto after some reports that it's looking to acquire backed holdings. We had Josh Gerben, who is a trademark lawyer, posting here on X as of yesterday, saying that Trump Media has applied for a patent for something called TruthFi. So here is the patent application, or at least part of it, from the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office. This was filed as of November 18th. So Monday, apparently aspects of this offering, according to this patent filing, include digital wallets, crypto, payment processing options, and a digital asset trading platform. So another potential move here into crypto for Trump Media. TruthFi could be on watch here, as is DJT. For Bitcoin itself, bit of a doji candle forming after 3 straight days of pretty strong upside. As Neil indicated, we have yet to break that 100,000 level, but Bitcoin teasing us a little bit as we continue to waffle around that area. Notably, though, less volume here than we had for the last 4 days as of right now. Bitcoin up on the day here, as Ethereum trying to knock on the door of that 3,300 level as of right now. Solana strong up about 4%. XRP up about 30%. XRP's relative strength could have something to do with the resignation of Gary Gensler as SEC chair. We know the SEC went pretty hard after Ripple, so XRP notably strong, as is Cardano, up about 17%, guys.
Thank you very much.
There we go. Some strong moves happening. We'll eyeball it and see what happens over there in Bitcoin land. I mean, obviously, I've said this every single time, like when we don't get what we're looking for, that the big breaks, and I told my physical guy this, sometimes they just wait for the weekend, man. It is what it is. You get that weekend move, and that's when we'll get the 100,000 break. If we don't see it, it's easy to say it today, but I kind of felt that yesterday too. They like those big moves after. Bit of a bottoming tail candle on volume on NVIDIA. If it can close it, holding, again, 143 is the only level I like. If it can hold on, then that's where I want to retry it. Tesla's still trying to go. It can't get to VWAP. Look at the wedge being formed here on Tesla. So it can't get to VWAP. You've got higher lows going into this 45. The problem is you've just now started to make some lower highs as well. I'm being patient with Tesla. It's either the breakout or it sets me up for a long. There's no clean long entries unless you had it really, really early off the bottom. So it's got to be something consolidative, or we're just going to get a clean break through that 345 level. Obi, you noted something that I hadn't seen on those retailers looking pretty good.
Yeah, no, the retailer is definitely looking good. I mean, I didn't know until I pulled up that Walmart, that Target, that Nordstrom, and Macy's as well. Yeah, retail very, very strong on the day, while the rest of this market kind of pulls back. So interesting stuff on that. Just kind of staring down this gap as it tries to make some fresh lows here. Looking kind of weak. Day low right now, 23.30, trading at 23.38 right now. So gonna be a little bit patient for this one to potentially come in here. But again, I don't want to, like Neil said, don't really want to look a gift horse too much in the mouth, right, Neil? So yeah, exactly. So you got to watch out for that. For that. Okay, so okay. So some fresh lows, all right. So we're trading with a trend now. I like it. I'm not comfortable with it just yet, but you know what? It's something we can definitely get comfortable with over time. Is that continuation trade? It's something that I do have to get a little bit better at right there. Not every trade is a reversion. Not every trade is a fade trade, but the continuation, we can see how strong some of these trends have been going in the past few days, or past few weeks actually, on an intraday basis as well. But yeah, no. I'm not really looking at anything else right now. Nothing monstrous about this misty move right here. MSTR kind of it is trending a little bit to the upside as of right now. I guess we're trading above VWAP as well, so that's something to consider. But let's see if the market can catch a bit of a bounce here on a day like today. Again, leave it up in the chat. What are you guys trading? I'm curious to know, man. What is moving around? We said that retail is moving around, but a lot of these things are looking muted. I see that somebody in the chat talking about PLTR, Bassem in the chat talking about PLTR. Yeah, no, PLTR, strong move off the open, nice little reversion, but pretty much sideways as of right now. CVS saying stock Edwards. Let's take a look at CVS. Okay, so CVS near day high. So they're maybe not necessarily I guess a little bit of a retailer, but more they're a pharmacy. The pharmacy.
They've been getting destroyed, haven't they?
Have they? I don't know. Let's take a quick look. What's the weekly look like on this thing? Oh boy.
Tesla broke, by the way.
Yeah, you're right. They have been getting absolutely destroyed. We've had a sideways action for majority of the year, though. This is a weekly chart. We've been pretty much sideways for over 27 bars, over 190 days there on CVS. Bit of a pop, failure to follow through, coming right back into the range.
I'll tell you one thing right now.
What's up?
If you're not using, I was crapping all over Edge A. Okay, some of the stops we were getting the last couple of weeks and the levels we were on these even dollar breaks, some of the prices that we were getting or not getting fills on were frustrating. But Tesla, yesterday, NVIDIA broke 150, got 150.01. Today I got evens. I got evens on this breakout trade. Like, that's absolutely wild. What that tells you, however, is the liquidity is fierce in both directions. And at some point when things slow down, I'm going to explain that to you. Again, I'm scalping this one up because I'm not, like, the market hasn't been that strong. And I'm remembering the lesson of yesterday that we saw with Tesla, with NVIDIA on that break. The other thing is, remember, Tesla consolidation here on the daily chart as well. So I'm long into a bit of overhead resistance at 347. So remember I said it's a scalp into 347. That's exactly what we're doing. So immediately take out 80% of it into that range, but I'm loving that fill. We're able to get 45 evens. Thank you. You wait all around for that one trade, and then it works out for you. But how do you find that next opportunity that's going to be the good one? Well, you do so with a great window to the market, and that is eSignal. And for all of you out there, if you're looking to engage into a fantastic charting platform and step your game up a little bit, then you want to make sure you check out eSignal. I don't know if we have it up there. There we go. And again, you always want to work, and this is an old tried and true statement, work smarter, not harder. You want to have all of your data in one place. You want to do your back testing the same place that you're looking for your moving average crosses, where you're looking for your setups. You want to be scanning for what symbols are moving or not moving in the same place that you want to be able to do your tick replay, where you're going to see how was it trading. What did Tesla look like at that 345 break in those few seconds when it was going? You can find that with eSignal. You're talking about reliable data, open 24/7 when the markets are available to you, no downtime. It's tried and true. Almost every trader I know that has used it has stuck with it for a very, very long time, or pretty much forever, because of that reliability. So if you're whether you're looking for trading opportunities and want to do scanners and quote boards, whether you're looking to do some kind of back testing or forward testing, whether you are simply looking for a platform that allows you to look at everything within the market breadth and find opportunities that work for you, eSignal works. They got an API. You can even code strategies if you would like to. So shout out to eSignal. They got a 30-day free trial. Check that one out. Let's go. It's about time, Tesla. And I'm using that one. And it's not baseball season, but the reason why I'm doing a baseball one is because I have a lot in stake with the Blue Jays offseason. If they trade Vladimir Guerrero, then I'm going to have a hard time. My daughter is going to cry legitimate tears if they trade Vladimir Guerrero Jr. That's our best player in Toronto. So hit some home runs here. Shout out to Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge, surprisingly winning the NL and AL MVP awards. Tesla winning the breakout award here at 345. I just took a leg out at 348, and it's already at 349. So we're going to get one more out of 349. Why? Because 350 is in tow. So shout out to anybody that was in that one, but I'm ringing register. While that it got the scalp trade in the 347, I should not have had that fill above 347. 348, 349, then 350 is going to be next. Thank you, Tesla, for finally giving us an opportunity. That's sort of the thing. Like yesterday, everything was about that one NVIDIA trade. And today, took some shots in gap. Thankfully, did not stick around with that silly MSTR trap trade at 420. Got away from that and then waited for our shot there in Tesla breaking out. That's what it's all about here. Bongzilla is a #1 Yankees fan. Brian Thompson says, I can also cheer for the Yankees. True story. My favorite Blue Jay of all time was Jesse Barfield growing up. I was 9 years old when the Toronto Blue Jays traded Jesse Barfield to the Yankees. For a full year, I refused to watch Blue Jays games and would only watch and follow the Yankees. My dad was really cool about it. He let me deal with it, even though we're all Blue Jays fans. After a year, I came back, but the same thing happens. My daughter is going to be a fan of I promise you, whatever team he goes to, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Yankees are a good team. SMCI is also moving. Do I regret missing SMCI? I do. When Tesla broke, I was on the bid trying to get long SMCI, and I missed it. But I don't care because we got Tesla.
Thank you.
That's what's up. Tesla? We did, but I missed SMCI. Tesla 348, 345 to 349 on Tesla just now. That's this chart here, Randy. And we did say when Randy brings the non-red cup, things would go up. This isn't green.
That's literally what's happened.
But that's what's happened. Market's going back up because Randy brought the refill. That's what I'm talking about. Also, we were apparently supposed to go to Sector Watch.
Yes.
Hi, Darren. What's up, Darren?
Hi, Randy. We're going to take a look here at these sectors. On a percentage basis, the weakest two are actually going to be these tech sectors here. We do have some Mag 7 weakness in Google, Meta, and NVIDIA, bringing this group down. INTU, Intuit, also down here on earnings day 1, PanW down on earnings day 2, and a downgrade. But not all of these names are weaker. Apple trying to get a move up here. We know they're going to be introducing their Siri or their upgraded AI Siri, according to a Bloomberg report, rolling that out as the end of next year, beginning of 2026. We also have Boeing to the upside, actually, with a positive catalyst, apparently getting this U.S. Air Force deal valued over $2 billion for some of their tankers. So not all weakness, but these sectors on a percentage basis are bringing the rest of the market down a skosh. We do have finance largely to the upside here on continued post-election strength. They had a great day yesterday as well. Retail trade doing great here as we have continued reactions to the earnings we had from some of these names like Walmart and Target earlier in the week. Lots of strength as well in commercial services, consumer durables, Tesla leading the group to the upside, transportation, and communication, industrial services as well. So we might have big tech weakness, but that doesn't mean there's strength to be found in other parts of the market, guys.
Oh, look at it go.
Look at it go.
350.
350 on Tesla. Oh, boy.
That's my best. Have you ever watched darts? Okay, well, most people probably have never
Randy
seen
coming
darts.
in with the bullish action.
Darts has some of the greatest commentators out there. I don't care whether you're into that kind of bar sports or not. When they're out there and they're like 180, and it's I used to be pretty solid at darts. Not to toot my own horn, but I'm tooting my own horn. in my younger days. I was pretty good. 350 just broke like wildfire. Oh yeah, if it fails that break, I'm just gonna move my trail to underneath 350. I was holding through that break, but I just said to Obi on a Friday. I was just saying on a Friday, if it loses that 350 level, and we've been talking about trying to hold a little bit better. If we lose 350, I'm gonna cover, and then I'll only be down to like less than 5% of the trade. So we'll see what happens. But it's now 351. Oh, this is getting parabolic. Let me just zoom out here for a quick little second. Zoom back out so that you guys can see. I already have a 350 trail. Remember, you do have 353 and 358 when you pull it back out there. So I have a trail in to get half out at 350. 353 would have been the next spot where I would just offer some out 100%. But so far, so good. You just had to wait for something. And it ended up being Tesla. I think today was I don't know, I actually think it was a little bit disappointing, to be honest with you, because there weren't a lot of trading opportunities out there. I thought MicroStrategy would do something. Wow. Same range on MicroStrategy that's been BS that's been trashed the whole time.
Yo, is there a catalyst on Tesla? Like
no,
that volume coming in.
There's
323, 352 halves right now. So we were holding underneath that 350 for a few days there. You can see. So what is that? Monday to pretty much all week. So we're breaking week highs going into the end of the week on Tesla. Oh boy, let's take a look at the weekly chart right here. So nice little continuation. So there are those prior highs, 358.60s, Neil. It's running for those highs, 358.60s. Tesla can definitely, that's well within Tesla's range, well within its, well, I don't know about the ATR yet, but.
Here's a good point. I just saw this in the chat. Shout out to the greatest trading community out there because it's right here. You got George S. Mentioning there the 360 level, and then someone else was talking about the calls at 360. 360 active reported by Benzinga, and that's sort of the thing. Like, and again, if you're looking at the chain, I'll cop to it that I make assumptions oftentimes, which you make a you-know-what out of you and me. I would have thought the 350 would have been the biggest. If 360's got a ton of open interest, I think that's why you get some explosion as you head toward 50, and there was never a checkup at the 350 level. That said, plan of action was to, at once 47 went to get out 49, hold through a 50 break with a trail, play to 53, 53 is now starting to pull back. So I slapped a trail when it got to the $0.50. When it gets close to 353, I slap a trail so we got some out the even dollar, and now we're just going to hold. Because as far as I'm concerned, this is now valid all the way, just to hold for the dream, which would be 360. This is valid all the way back to that 347 level, which would still be in the money, right? So that original 347, which on the 15-minute chart you can barely even see all the way down in here, it's good to me to hold on to that to see if we can get to $360 because we're only holding on to a small portion of it. So thankfully, this one came in. Otherwise, it would have been a very much of a nothing burger morning for me. You know, just a flat morning because I canceled my order on SMCI. Like we had one good win on SMCI, then we lost on the second trade, and then I missed out on the VWAP bounce. But if you got the VWAP bounce on SMCI, that's pretty good too because you could have had 32.80, 33 even into 34. So on a $33 stock, you could have got a buck on SMCI, which is just as good as far as I'm concerned. But Tesla happened to happen first. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that doesn't sound good at all. Happened first.
Happened.
Yeah, it just happened first.
It just happened. The Tesla's pretty much one of the only ones out of the Mag 7 that's moving like crazy, right? And we tried a couple of shots on the gap here. Now I don't know if it's something about this seat, Neil, but it feels like I definitely planted some flowers at the base here. I know Sean always says that. A lot of decision making as the price action slows down. I'm like,
I have no beef with that though.
I'm like, it's not doing what I'm looking for. I'm like just slowly just being like, okay, I'm taking some out, taking some out. I don't know. It's I know I've been asked to change it a couple of times, but it always goes back to default for some reason. I have no idea.
I'll help you with
that. The blues are I guess covers, and yellows are sells on the longs, and then blues are just buys. And I guess in general, blues are just buys, reds are short sells, and then the yellows are long covers or selling the long as well. So again, yeah, as it slowed down, I was just being like, all right, I'm going to slowly, incrementally just get out of this. And then that last little piece, I'm like punching out on the break of the trend right there, day low sitting at 23.25s here on gap, but still, the trend has slowed down maybe a little bit, but the trend overall is still down, man. Like we're trading below VWAP. Look at this beautiful trend. This is a 1 minute chart. I don't really use that very often, but I pulled it up just to show how many executions I had there. But yeah, no, we're kind of breaking this trend right here. I don't know which moving average this is. I think it's a 9 EMA here on my chart. This light blue, I guess cyan colored line right there. On this name, 2350 is trading right now, and that 350. Oh boy, man, I'm kind of I see a chart like this that's going kind of parabolic on strong volume on I guess just a technical move, it would seem as of right now. I get a little mouth watery on for a potential reversion when things are going straight up like that, because as soon as that bid kind of dissipates and falls off,
it'll be nasty.
Yeah. Because it's like, is it unnatural? Maybe, perhaps, I don't know. But you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna maybe exercise that idea here. Might be a little wide.
Trend right now.
It's breaking trend right now. I'm seeing that as I'm talking about it. So I will. You know what? Let me pull up some Tesla here. Maybe
you've already covered in this range, Neil.
With this. Oh boy. Here we go. All right. So what is my risk? You got to define that risk first. Okay. So the highs are 52.66s. We're trading at 50.70s right now. Okay. Cool, I like that. Let me just throw in my stop right here. And while I do that, Money Talks with Adara. What's up?
Before we get started here with Money Talks, it's worth noting, keep an eye on Robinhood. This was already kind of speculated, but now, according to CNBC, their chief legal officer, Dan Gallagher, has officially said that he is not interested in being considered for the U.S. SEC chair role. His name was being floated around a little bit yesterday, as reported by Charlie Gasparino, but it was kind of considered to be a long shot. So now officially, Robinhood chief legal officer, according to CNBC, saying he has no interest in being considered as the new SEC chair after outgoing SEC chair Gary Gensler announces he's stepping down on January 20th, 2025. Now we have the DXY, which is actually at its highest level since November 2022. So 2-year highs for the DXY, continuing its post-election strength. Though it's worth noting, we pulled back quite a bit today from our high of day. Our high of day was above 108. As of right now, we're trading around 107.5. Lots of economic data today. We did get some PMI data at 9:45, but the key data today was going to be that Michigan consumer sentiment prints. We had Michigan consumer sentiment lower than expected, 71.8 versus 73 expected and previous. This is our final print. Then we had 1-year inflation expectations exactly in line with estimates there. Higher than expected, though, for 5-year inflation expectations, 3.2% versus 3.1% expected. So a little bit higher than expected 5-year inflation expectations, lower than expected consumer sentiment data. What do we have on the docket for next week? It is a shortened week, but that does not mean we're going to have a shortage of economic data to discuss. At 2 p.m. on Tuesday, we'll be getting the FOMC minutes from that November meeting. If you'll recall, we had a 25 basis point rate cut. It was a unanimous decision. Then on Wednesday morning, we're going to be getting not only core PCE and PCE data, we'll also be getting our second estimate for the GDP growth rate. So Wednesday morning at 8:30 a.m. should be huge for the markets. Also some home sales and home pricing data to digest next week, guys.
I'm going to apologize in advance for my allergies today, because I even took some Reactin, and it's like, yeah, it's one of those, man. Like yesterday, it was crazy on my way to physio. It was wild. Tesla just retook the 353 level, and I don't know, you might have been able to hear me when Obi was talking, and I was looking at this mean revert, because usually if I'm holding a move like this, a close underneath, and I'm going to trail out of the last one, but I'm like, no, we already covered in this range. We're holding for 60s. We covered in this range. We're holding for 60s. I said it's valid back into 347. So sticking to that plan of action. So it's now broken the 353. Like, you're out and about on the way to, I mean, like, the daily chart's fine. Who cares about the 15-minute? You're out and about in the way to 360. However, I will point out, you know, as I said, we missed out on SMCI when Tesla came in that 345 break. And obviously, MicroStrategy, while right to get out of this trade tight on the 420 break, there's a VWAP bounce, there's a higher low consolidation play, MSTR ends up going without us. That's fine. Tesla was worth waiting on, and sort of really only in one thing at a time today has worked out pretty well. But Gap didn't. Obviously, that ended up stinking. We did miss SMCI. Even NVIDIA, which we tried it once. I mean, look, at the end of the day, we stayed green on it because we were taking small profit and then had a tight stop. But it just really wasn't working where we wanted it. It ends up holding 143. So if we had gone back over to NVIDIA while Tesla was going, then this would have been fine off the 143 level, and it's going to end up getting into VWAP. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Obviously, I'm just going to hold on to Tesla. We only have 5 or 6 minutes to go till we get to the midday. Not usually the time I'm going to press trades. Going to hold on to Tesla, see if it can make that push to 55. My trail is up to 47 at this point, and unless we break 55, I don't see a reason to move it. However, there is something that's possibly setting up. It's that AMD 139, which maybe I should already be in, possibly. You know, like that's a trade I can already be in here off of 138. If it can consolidate here around the half, I'd look to get into that short. And one last thing, Dolph just asked, I just saw this. What do you and Sean think about pivot points?
What are those?
I've never used them as an indicator. The best person to ask about pivot points, I think, would be Sharif, because he's used them as an indicator to trade. I have not. So I don't have an opinion on them because I've never used that indicator to trade. If you ever hear me say the word pivot point, I'm usually referring to a support and resistance level, which it's trading away from in both directions, because I consider that like a pivot area, but it's not the actual technical trade. That would be like this 138. Like AMD is pivoting off 138. It goes from breakout to support to flush through to resistance to breakout. Meaning at 138, it is pivoting away from that price. But that has nothing to do with pivot points. I don't really use them. So, you know, I can't really give you a good answer. I think Sharif, I mean, we're going to Sharif in 5 minutes. I would ask him.
Yeah. Definitely. I think here's again, I don't know much, but here's my take on indicators over the years. I think that you know, it's funny, when I first started trading, I tried VWAP for the longest time, and I was like, oh, this thing, it doesn't work. And then I realized, I was like, it really depends on how you use it, right? If it's respecting the indicator, I think it can be given some precedence. But if it's not respecting it all, and it's not really following said indicator, then it's obviously not really something to consider. So it's like, all right, sometimes the moving averages, they don't work, but when they do work, you can use them as a bit of a reference, as a bit of a guide, right? I think that's always the case with indicators. Chasing latitudes, asking, how is Tesla a short? Well, I'm just taking stabs at it until it actually comes in, man. This is aggressively strong. I don't necessarily want to chase the long up here as it is pushing aggressively to the upside. And yeah, if you're long from before, there's no solid reason to sell just yet. But I'm seeing a bit of a slowdown here. That this was aggressive bid. Look at that volume that did come in. But as soon as we start consolidating, look at the volume that drops off. Right? So it's like not the same kind of volume that pushed in. Sure, that volume can come back in. There it is, right there. We're making some fresh highs. So I get stopped out once again, and I'm gonna try again a little bit later there. So yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be one way or the other, but I'm taking stabs at it. Definitely, the long is right off of this breakout right here, this consolidation break, and we know that Neil. Shout out to Neil for being in a 10-point winner right now on Tesla. That's absolutely wild. Look at the opportunities this market is giving us, guys. Absolutely crazy there. As Tesla continues to push to the upside there. I'm going to stay patient. I'm going to continue taking stabs with small size until that backside actually comes in. And when it does, I'm more than willing to slap it to the downside.
I was waiting for you to say that.
354.75s trading right now on Tesla. I'm more than willing to, you know, pay the piper a little bit before the move actually comes in. And you know what? When that to me, this feels a little euphoric here. This aggressive bid. The market is bidding up aggressively as well. But you know what, Tesla, yeah, I got an alert here all the way at 360s. I know some people are talking about 360s. Yeah, sure, we can potentially go to 360s. Tesla's more than capable of doing this. We can see that Bitcoin is moving as well. I know a lot of people correlate some price movement on Tesla to Bitcoin sometimes. Bitcoin's pushing up aggressively as well. 98.9s I have, 98.9 I have on Bitcoin right now. So we're trading just underneath that 99 level, and Tesla continues to make some fresh highs. So haven't really got in on a trend break.
Well, there's
yet.
55.
There's 55. So there's again aggressive bid coming in here on Tesla. So yeah, I'll be more patient. I have no problem shorting a little bit just to get a feeler before the move has even come in, and I'm more than willing to get stopped out on it as well. But where sometimes I have problems getting too aggressive too much with too much size, and that's something I have been getting better with. If I am getting in on the front side of the move, just taking stabs at it with small size just to feel it out, and if and when it does come in, I definitely want to take it a little bit more aggressively here on Tesla there.
So there was a question in the chat that I have to address here because it's one of those. It was I can't see it. Oh, there it is. It's unwise. What caused the Tesla bump? Looked technical to me. It was so. Here's the thing. It was already relatively strong. So you did have a bullish setup, right? So in two ways. One, you failed a breakout long, which usually sets up the failed breakout long, break of the low is a pretty standard short setup for a lot of traders. Right? Like there's your failed break at the open to the upside, then your break the low. It then confirmed underneath the low again for some continuation, lower highs off VWAP. There's multiple short setups early, and then look at how strong it reverted. Kind of washing out a lot of those shorts, and anyone trying to hold, it then trended up into a flat top break. All of that just looks technical to me. So I don't think it necessarily needs a catalyst. It's Tesla, so Tesla can just do Tesla things.
Yep.
But there was asked in the chat, and there was someone in the chat saying, first of all, I appreciate all the advice. I saw Ari Page is saying in the chat, sometimes a rewind to get the tidbits of knowledge while we're discussing the trades live. I think that's one of the best things out there. Sometimes we're explaining our thoughts, and I know it's too fast, and that's just because it's in our heads. I do it. I know 100% I do it. Sean, sometimes he'll say, yeah, we're doing these lessons because we're just sort of talking about it live. One of the questions was, how do we get better with trailing stops? For me, it's a work in progress. I had to remind myself not to trail out here because we'd already covered in this range and it hadn't closed underneath on the trend. This time, the 353 level, if we lose it up here, that's an out for me. We've now gotten to target areas as far as I'm concerned. So you just tag the 55. If we lose under 53, I'm getting out of this one. So obviously Tesla's been going pretty hard here to the upside. 355 for some people might be a stop area. Oh, it's 11 o'clock. Remember, this is also now that top here in front of the 360. So my trail is in. It can't do worse than 7.5 at this point, but it's entirely possible, that this could be that top. I'm trying to hold it to that 360 push, but it's starting to get a little bit top heavy. It's past 11 o'clock, but you know what? It's been a wild one. Had to wait around for Tesla to give us the goods. It worked out, so thankful for that. We'll be back at 2 o'clock to take you into the close. Maybe Bitcoin can get to 100,000 before then, and we have the right duo locked and loaded and ready for you in a second, because we've got Satya, not Joseph, who's our resident crypto expert here. So we're going to have Sharif, we're going to have Satya as well, and I'm going to keep talking for a little bit because, hey, you know what? Tesla's making that pullback right now. You short it right now because this could be it, Obi. So Obi, our positions aren't showing, but Tesla just made this curl at 55. I don't know where you're short. My trail is underneath the 53. This trend here, so it looks like 55 could be the curl. The NASDAQ is also coming from potentially green to red in just a couple seconds. Do we have the okay? I think we're okay. So we're still not okay. We're gonna have to, we're having some mic issues throwing back over. So basically, Tesla looks like it is going to make that reversion. I have my trail in just underneath the 53 level. It's still holding on for now. Oh, the other thing, go to, I don't know if we can do my chart. Is it too much to ask to go to my chart? NVIDIA? No? Okay, NVIDIA is actually holding the higher low. Watch out for this off the 144 level. You've got a little bit of a seller that's coming in and selling underneath the 144 on NVIDIA. If it can punch through that and this joins the party, I think that's what'll take us to the top here. If NVIDIA, which is down 2%, if it can join the party, I think things will look a heck of a lot better. And Apple holding VWAP is another one. Remember Apple 230, do not sleep on this. It's failed 230 several times. If we can break out that quarter, I think this could be pretty nasty to the upside. But the market is pulling back a little bit here. So are we good? Let's throw on over. We've got Sharif. We've got Satea. Go get him.
What is up, beautiful people? Welcome to How to Trade for My Own. As that midday show, that is your girl Satea, the crypto queen.
Hello, and this is Sharif.
Okay, do you have a mic issue? Are we good? What's happening?